Yes, it is that time, the Captain's Cast. You ready to girl boss or not to girl boss? That is the question. Ahoy! Welcome aboard! As a matter of fact,
they're going back to the Citadel!
What? Why did we leave everything completely undefended?
Because you told us to!
Shut up, Frank! You don't know that wasn't it! Everyone! Finale battle!
Oh!
Did you hear something, Rita? Now, love.
Hello?
Huh? Wow, the
Ew! Hooray! It's over!
No, it isn't!
Oh my gosh, this is exhausting! They're going back to the Citadel!
What? Why did we leave everything completely undefended?
Dang it! I had it looped. Anyway, that is Mad Max for you. We're doing Furiosa, folks. We're doing Furiosa. Welcome to the Captain's Cast. I am your host, Captain Garrett, live on YouTube, Rumble, and X, formerly Twitter. And we're going to be talking Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. I have complex feelings about this movie. I really do. There's, is it girl bossery or is it not girl bossery? Well, the answer to that might surprise you. And I will say, I saw it is far superior to Atlas. Did you J-Lo. J-Lo is takeover. J-Lo is takeover of science fiction now. She is so much science fiction in this movie Atlas. I can't, dude, 5 minutes of this. You could torture people with this movie. All right, we'll talk about Atlas, and we got to talk about a little bit of, I got a bunch of Star Wars. I've got like a Star Wars combo platter for you. A couple of different things. Prism is a YouTube channel which is doing this series called Obi-Wan. What if Obi-Wan were good? And Star Wars Theory has uncovered some interesting information about what could have been. And there's Acolyte stuff and Grizzy Shills. There's even Grizzy Shills. So we're going to talk about that. In fact, I had all my stuff just crash right before the stream, so I have to reload a bunch of things. But where is my stack of stuff? We have some victories to celebrate as well. So there's some cool stuff to talk about. So we're going to get into it. I have, Furiosa. I'm watching this movie yesterday, Furiosa. And I thought, I kept going back and forth because at one minute I'm thinking, this is like an epic visual novel and I'm loving it. And then the next minute I'm kind of like, what is the point of this? and it kind of went back and forth as I was watching the movie. But what occurred to me is that, the thing about Furiosa is it's beautifully made. It's a beautiful piece of filmmaking. It hits a lot of different notes that many of the absolute failures that we've talked about, like Rebel Moon and anything Disney Star Wars, the sheer spectacle and beauty of the wasteland. Fallout comes to mind. Fallout, the TV show. The sheer beauty and spectacle and I would say the thematic elements. It's hard to explain, folks. There is literally a kind of trance-like madness that you enter when you enter a George Miller film. It's like you just go with it. You have this suspension of disbelief. You are in this bizarre, strange world that somehow makes sense, and you sort of slowly descend into madness along with the film. That is the quality I really love about George Miller filmmaking. You sort of just become mad along with everyone in the film. This may be the reason why I think these films come across much better than most films that are just style over substance. Now, films like Rebel Moon and shows like Fallout and the Mandalorian season 3, this is the way. These three things I just mentioned all have one thing in common. Do you know what it is? It is bland, boring, repetitive settings, often desert settings. Right? Rebel Moon is supposedly all style over substance, but it doesn't actually even have any style to it. It's all very bland. What I find interesting about George Miller's exploration of this fictional Australian post-apocalyptic wasteland is it feels fresh, it feels original. There are some problems with it, and I'll get into that. But for the most part, I feel transported when I'm watching the film. So on the whole, I mostly liked the film Furiosa. But the film Furiosa has a problem, which is Furiosa. So we'll get into that. So how are you, chat? What are you up to? Fu Man Blue says permission to come aboard granted, sir. Ahoy, Fu Man Blue. Welcome aboard. J-Lo is takeover. She is so takeover. J-Lo is science fiction. J-Lo is so goddamn science fiction, you ain't gonna frickin' believe it. She's so goddamn science fiction, man. Oh, JC. Oh, dude, okay. J-Lo is like, what can I even say? So I start watching Atlas, right? Because I think I'm going to meme on this for the Captain's. I'm just going to have fun with it. I know it's garbage. I start to feel like, well, what can I say? Mediocrity has been institutionalized across all of the modern, shall we say, mainstream filmmaking channels. Like all the modern artistic channels, like Hollywood, I guess is the best word for it. I'm tired of saying Hollywood because they're on the way out, folks. They're collapsing. But the intelligentsia, the pedigreed class, and they have so institutionalized mediocrity that to constantly go and critique them feels kind of pointless, at this point. So I'm kind of picking my battles. I'm kind of making the decision. I'm not going to because it's like you just go back to the same place and it's like, oh, gee, this is the same thing over and over again. It's like, well, yeah, what do you expect? Still. This one seemed particularly funny to me. So I load up Atlas, right? Folks, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And I'm like, I can't take this. I cannot take this. It's so bad. I was laughing. I was laughing at the intro. They're just narrating the stupid AI war. Folks, this is a film that is entirely AI generated. This is an AI generated film from a marketing department that just needed. You know what it actually is like? Okay, so the movie Fall Guy, Ryan Gosling, right? In the movie Fall Guy, there's a film within a film, which is the fictional science fiction film that Emily Blunt's character is directing. Now, the film that's within that film of Fall Guy is insanely stupid. It actually was kind of notable because it's nothing like if this were a real film, it would be an awful Rebel Moon disaster that none of us that like science fiction would be watching. But I kind of forgave that because it's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is, the Fall Guy and all that stuff. However, I have to tell you that fictional film within a film that nobody would have been interested in, that was better than this stupid Atlas film. It's like AI generated, man. It's like, I just need a fictional film that's within a film that's actually not a real film. I just need an AI generated film within a film. That's what this Atlas movie is. But someone saw it and thought, well, it's actually pretty good. Put it on Netflix. It's every line is a stock, Adobe stock line from some other science fiction movie. The dialogue, it's just like Secret Invasion. It's just like Echo. It's just like Rebel Moon. It's like all of these bad movies. It's circular dialogue that goes nowhere. Imitations of better scenes from 80s movies that were glorious. Old James Cameron, Spielberg films. Attempts at sort of recreating that. I'm going to prove that to you. Actually, I have a great side-by-side. And it's so bad, it's laughable. The oldest, most tired AI tropes, the oldest, most tired character tropes. Oh, her psychoval says she's not good for this mission and doesn't work well with others. Well, I believe in her, Colonel, and so will you. Oh my God, I'm so tired of this. I am so tired. It's like, so it's not even exactly that it's like it's a fiction. It's like a microwave TV dinner version of a science fiction film that could pass as a science fiction film. So what's truly bad about it is just the stock photo nature of it. It's like, it makes me want to puke. It's I don't know. It really bothers me. It ruins my IQ. It drains my energy as a human being to watch these films. And it's somewhat germane to Furiosa, because I'm going to get to my thoughts on Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, because I feel that this is the crucial piece of the Furiosa puzzle. Now, Starfury is in the chat. Ahoy, Starfury. Captain salutes you, sir. Welcome aboard. Says, I think I've had a stroke. I didn't hate Atlas. What the hell is wrong with me? Now, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. Starfury, our sweet prince across the pond, says he enjoyed Atlas. Now, Starfury. Seriously, though, I don't hold this against you. I know, you're probably surprised. You probably think the captain was going to light your ass up. No, not really, because actually, here's what I think, Starfury. It's a beautiful stock photo movie. So, on one level, it actually doesn't really violate any of the theoretical on-paper requirements of a science fiction action film. Do we have a character that nobody trusts, but she understands the alien enemy as no one else does? Check. Do we have futuristic science fiction tropes like holographic digital displays and little coffee makers that talk to you? Check. Do we have a futuristic military organization engaged in a battle to save humanity from AI overlords? Check. Do we have space travel? Check. Do we have warp speed? Check. Do we have space battles? Check. Do we have walking mech armor? Check. Yeah, the problem is none of that is anything new. None of that has anything at all interesting to say. And if you look closely, it's not actually saying anything. It's not really saying anything. It's pretending, it's wearing a skin suit of better things you've seen before. So what I think is happening is, it's masquerading as something mostly acceptable. It's actually that very aspect of it, which is the source of my deep, deep, visceral hatred of it, my dear Starfury. That is why I hate it so much, because I see the little trick that it's playing, right? It's like Kurtzman Trek. It's, that's all it is. It's like Star Trek Discovery. It puts this glossy... oh my God. I was talking to my dad, and he was saying that a mutual family member that we know was enjoying Star Trek Discovery. And I was like, well, of course she's enjoying it. She's not a Star Trek fan. She would never. She said, I like this better than the other Star Trek you watch. Of course she does, because it's a CW melodrama. It has nothing to do with Starfleet. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, well, look at that. Fu Man Blue is angry at you, Starfury. Well, Anthony Timmons is in the chat. Ahoy, Anthony. Welcome aboard. Ahoy, Starshippers. I like that. I usually say sailors and starnauts, but I might say starshippers too. It sounds like FedEx in space. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to starship it to you. What we are. I call it starnauts. That would be STARNAUT. Instead of astronauts, it's just starnauts. Now, Starfury says, I will speak to my DR in the morning. Lithium prescription in... doctor. You meant doctor, not... Yes, your doctor lithium prescription. Dude, this is why I hate modern storytelling, because it is. It is a lithium description, sir. Okay, the men with white coats will be ordered to take Starfury. I think what happened, Starfury, is listen, let me make a confession that will put your mind at ease. Okay. When I saw Star Trek Into Darkness, that would be the Benedict Cumberbatch, J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie, I liked it. I sang its praises even. Now, I still had my problems with it, like what was the stupid? Oh yeah, the transwarp beaming. We're just gonna beam ourselves from Earth to Kronos. Oh jeez. And then the hairless Klingons. Yeah. So there's a lot of problems with it. Don't get me wrong, but at first glance, it seemed like a cool movie because you had Kirk is in command. Him and Spock are kind of they seem like they're friends. So that's cool. It kind of does an inverse, Benedict Cumberbatch, like it or not, is just a great actor. And I did not think he made any sense as Khan, but just as a stand-in for a Khan-like villain, he was a lot of fun, right? He's very intimidating. I really liked, what's his name? Peter Welker? What's the name of the guy? Peter Weller, that's right. He was RoboCop. He plays a villain in it, which is pretty fantastic. There were things about it I liked. But looking back on it, it's the same thing with anything that's Kurtzman Trek or J.J. Abrams Trek. It's playing a trick, right? It's really taking the memory of things that were better. It's imitating them. It's doing a kind of cover band of it. And the worst sin of J.J. Abrams' Trek is that it's distracting you. It's distracting you with action scenes and pretty nods to the old lore and the details. It doesn't actually tell a meaningful story that has any substance at all. So I am giving you, I pardon you, sir. I pardon you for being hypnotized by the fool's gold that it is. Anthony Timmons says it makes Spaceballs look like Shakespeare. At least J-Lo wasn't. What? Starfury, you're trolling me now. She wasn't a girl boss? Well, okay, to be fair, a girl boss is like she's got I have all the powers of woman. And she's like, and she's stunning and brave and everything. She's a Mary Sue, right? A Mary Sue. I think she's a girl sad sack. So maybe you're right. She's not a girl boss, but why is she in this? That's the problem, Starfury, right? Why is she in this? Why is Furiosa an interesting character? That's the question. Why is Furiosa an interesting character? Because you know why I was asking this, right? I was asking myself this question in the theater because I'm like, I'm enjoying this film. I really love this film. Why is Furiosa the protagonist? Well, because it's about her, Captain. Okay, I know that it's about her. But why is it about her? Well, because she was a kid and she was taken away from her pretty, utopia, Garden of Eden, and her mother was taken from her and she wants revenge. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's all good. I've seen that about 1,000 times before. So why is this time kind of interesting? What's notable about this one? Well, I don't know. It's like, so I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, is there anything interesting about this character? And the more I scratched my head, other than it was interesting to see a person navigate this future wasteland hell, other than that, there was nothing actually very interesting about her or her story at all. And so it kind of brought me back to my original point. I recently rewatched Mad Max 1 and The Road Warrior. Okay. And Mad Max is the reason to watch Mad Max. He's what's interesting about the Mad Max film. Now, there's other things in it that are interesting, such as the post-apocalyptic world and society crumbling. And but by the way, I have a hard time figuring out just how crumbled this world is, but maybe we'll talk about that later. But in any case, he is interesting. And it's not just his stories. His story is pretty simple, really. He's a man that has a wife and a kid. He's one of the last cops. It's part of a last-ditch effort to try and preserve peace and liberty on the roads. That's all fairly by the numbers. But what's interesting is he has personality, he has panache, he has style. You know, he's the camera loves him. The camera loves him in that movie. Second film, he's very interesting. All the characters actually in the second film are pretty interesting. I love the guy. I love the guy, the helicopter guy. You know, that's just that is one thing that's fun about George Miller's filmmaking. These characters are wacky and off the top. You know, they're over the top. They're ridiculous. But within this world, they make a kind of literal sense, and I love that about it. It's weird to me that Furiosa is the least interesting character in her own film. Mad Max in Fury Road, which I like Fury Road, and I remember loving the hell out of that movie when I saw it. I had never seen the original Mad Maxes before. I was not a Mad Max fan. I just wanted to see a cool action movie, and I thought that was pretty cool. But Max, that would be the Tom Hardy Max, is also not the most interesting character in Mad Max Fury Road. So this brings me back to my point about J-Lo. Why do we think these characters are interesting? Why? Well, we don't. We think it's got to be J-Lo. It's just got to be a woman. Okay, fine. I don't care if she's a Mary Sue or not. I don't care. You know, honest to God, she spent this whole movie, that would be J-Lo in Atlas. She spends the whole movie with an expression on her face that is roughly like this. She, you know what she looks like? She's like the Joe. She's like the Joe Biden of like an Atlas. She's like, yeah, what do I do? I don't know where to go. Who are you people? Why are you here? The AI's gonna kill us all. We're all gonna die. That's basically J-Lo in this whole stupid movie. No, I don't want to use the Neuralink. Why does she look like she's naked and afraid all the time? Except not, you know. Why is she in this? Is my point. You know, it's because reasons. That's why. I don't even care if it's a diversity quota or not. We need to start asking ourselves these questions as filmmakers and creatives. So we'll talk more about that. Starfury says, I didn't go into the movie wanting the movie to say anything to me. I wanted bang, bang, pew, pew with mech armor. Call me a simple soul. Well, now listen, Starfury. I'm very persnickety. I just am, okay? I'm kind of a snob. When it comes to films, I really value my time. I don't like action for the sake of action. I really don't. And I need a reason to care. That's me. And also, I'd like to see tactical thinking behind the action scenes. The camera work in Atlas, if it could be called that, it was like, let's have this, all the action scenes are on spin cycle. That's basically, every action scene is like, I'm like, geez, chill the frack out, movie. I can see the ships. It's like, you know, I'm reminded of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, okay, which is my second favorite Star Wars film. Now, in the opening shot of Revenge of the Sith, it's one of my favorite. It's actually one of my favorite kind of openings of a Star Wars film, because they always start with the opening image is space, the final frontier. No, I mean space, right? And then we have the kind of whimsical John Williams score winding down from the title crawl, and then we pan, you know, the camera then looks at something, or something comes into the camera frame. I love that. I think every Star Wars film should properly start that way. That's it. That's the opening image of every Star Wars film, right? Now in Revenge of the Sith, we start on that. Sorry, I got to frame that. Okay, there it is. And we're in space. And then we and then we pan down and we see dum is the great Williams score, and we see this star cruiser coming by, right? And then we kind of swoop under it, and bam, all the shit's happening. We got all the blasters are fired. We got thousands of ships and fighters and droids, and they're above Coruscant, and it's this giant battle, right? Then we get the great heroic music, the classic Luke Skywalker soundtrack theme as we're zooming in. Now, here's the difference, Starfury. In something like Atlas, it's just spin cycle, and it's just show us all the shit happening. Oh, there's things happening. None of it makes any sense. None of it has any tactical reason for happening. It's just stuff happening. And it would be the same in Revenge of the Sith, if not for the fact that we single out our hero, which is the camera zooms in and flies up to Anakin and Obi-Wan, who are in their starfighters, cruising through the battle. The story of the action scene then becomes those two characters navigating this battlefield, right? And that is the crucial difference, is that there is a story being told. And what I will say for Furiosa and all of George Miller's films is that the action sequences tell a story, and they tell a story that's both sort of character driven and a story that is also tactically driven. Like, I have to say, I do love the action sequences in Furiosa. I really love just the fascinating little like tools and weapons that they have, these weird little defenses. It's like a classic. It's actually very nautical. I am a nautical man, and it's very naval warfare. The way that like you have this tanker, right? And it's going down the road, and it's got all these defenses on it, and you've got all these like little, it's almost like fighters, coming around trying to take out the cruiser. That's actually really cool, and it tells a kind of story. As insane and wacky. I mean, you got guys with like, black horned masks flying in like little paragliders and shit, and it's like, that's ridiculous, but and this is where a guy like Zack Snyder misses it. This is what Zack Snyder and idiots like that miss, right? Is that even though the guy in the paraglider is ridiculous and it's bananas, there is a tactical purpose to it. There is everything you see on that tanker in Furiosa has a reason for being there. The harpoon, what's the harpoon for? I was even thinking that as I'm like, what the hell do you need a harpoon for on this thing? Well, then they answered that question, because then here comes, and they also had the spinner on the back of the tanker. That was pretty cool. They've got basically these kind of helicopter blades that just spin at the back of the tanker. And I'm like, what's that for? Well, then there's a scene when one of these paragliders, it's got like a little propeller on it. It's like coming in, and they can't quite zero in on it. So they hit it with a harpoon, and they start reeling it in, and they reel it into the spinning blades, and they basically just meat grinder one of these paraglider guys. I don't know if I explained that very well, but my point is there's a reason. There's a reason for all that stuff, right? There's a tactical, as silly as it is, it makes a kind of sense within this world. And that's why I think every single scene in Atlas that's an action scene is garbage, because it has none of that thought put behind it. Starfury, you're firing up the stream, and I appreciate that. I really do. Sorry, you liked Trek Into Darkness. Marines get the baseball bat and take the captain to the brink. Oh, now I'm on trial. I am trying to defend you, Starfury. I'm trying to defend you for liking Atlas, starring J-Lo. Look at this. He's bringing the bats to arrest the captain. It's mutiny. That's mutiny, sir. By the way, a comment on one of my recent streams said, I got one comment. I was very excited. Ooh, a comment. Somebody liked the stream. so I go, not really. I mostly don't look at the channel, because I want to have hope, but I read the comment, and the comment said, dude, do not even try to do accents. Just do the stream. Do not even try accents. It's cringe as hell. I had to click off. And I was like, you know what? That's a very good point. I should stop doing accents. So Therefore, I am hereby announcing, Starfury, I will no longer attempt to do accents on the stream, as it is come to my attention that it is cringe AF. Now, I was tempted to reply to the comment, well, which one? Because some of them are intended to be. Some of them are supposed to be cringe, such as I love Star Wars Acolyte. That's supposed to be off-putting because the Shills, that's the Shill voice, and they are off-putting. They make me sick. Now, Footman Blue says, I didn't sing its praises, but I watched Into Darkness three to four times. I sang its praises. I really did. I was wrong. Now, don't misunderstand, though. I never, ever liked anything past Star Trek 2009. None of that was ever on my list above any of the old stuff. Like, I would never have rated the original, like the first, the 2009 Star Trek. I never would have rated that above any of the original Star Trek films, like not even close to me. So you know, I looked at it. I was wrong about this because in the early days, I hated how they reduced all of Star Trek to an action film. I did not like that. That always did bother me. But I thought it's also opening people to a new audience. God, I was so wrong about that. Yeah, I thought it was a good thing. It was bringing in new audience members. And now what I realize is all a change like that does is it brings in people who don't like Star Trek. That's all it does. And then they don't understand what Star Trek is. So part of it was because I believed that they were attempting to tell stories that roughly approximated Star Trek. Like, for example, in Star Trek 2009, that scene when Leonard Nimoy, Spock, comes in and says, I am and ever shall be your friend. You know, it's like, it seemed to me that was attempting to, like, really tap into what Star Trek was about in its heart and soul. And now I understand that that's fool's gold. It's just member berries. So it's a trick that just doesn't work on me anymore. But I think I just liked Benedict Cumberbatch as just a creepy, badass Superman fighting Kirk. I just thought that was kind of cool. Star Trek Beyond, though, is dog shit. Absolute dog shit. So, but look, those were simpler times, Fu Man Blue. I was a younger man then. I was much more optimistic about the world. Now I'm still optimistic. I'm still quite optimistic. You know, Dr. Steve Turley, he has a great point. He says, the decay of Western civilization should not be interpreted as our civilization crumbling into dust. It is decomposing into a rich and fertile soil from which a new citizen-driven civilizationalist society will arise. And I find that a lovely metaphor because it's basically saying, like, look, things go through cycles. And what I think is happening is that the old school 20th century Hollywood dominant model is decomposing. It is decomposing into a soil which is rich in nutrients and, let's face it, excrement, which will fertilize the growth of a new artistic vision. If we can keep the cancel pigs from consolidating their power and you know, spraying a bunch of Roundup on that pile of compost, because here's where we're at. If it weren't for totalitarians literally deploying censorship and cancel culture and things like that to prevent the rise of new stories and new creativity, if it were not for that, there's nothing but good times ahead of us, because that rich soil is going to nourish the new generation of storytelling with new tools that have never been used before. It's a beautiful new time, but we must remain vigilant, because there is a class of goons that populate Disney and Hollywood, and they're wackos. They are wackos, and they if they can't have it, nobody can. That's their attitude. Russell T Davies of Doctor Who is the perfect example of this. He is the perfect example of this. He is part of a dying breed. He is a radical, activist wacko who has long since given up on storytelling. He doesn't give a shit about storytelling. It's all about him. It's all about what he wants. It's all about his political messaging, a political messaging that is being totally rejected now. It is being rejected en masse, and he's either in denial or he's lying when he says that's not the case. And so what he's doing is he's burning it down on his way out the door. And that's what a lot of them are doing. They're just burning shit down on their way out the door because, okay, well, if you're so mad that Star Wars is ruined, how about we make a Rey movie and we're really going to own the chud? So we're just dealing with people that want to prevent the new Renaissance. And they're going to fail. They're going to fail. What else we got? What else we got in the chat? Stonecrow says, "Hail, my friend. Hope everything is good for you. Been going through a Harry Potter binge. Given a certain game being put on hold again. I'm sorry for that. Yes, the deal with Fallout Dead Man's Cash, I love doing these things. I really do. The challenge I have is I've got to make videos, and I'm struggling. It's just work I have to get done, and there's a lot of other priorities. And unfortunately, another live stream that is not like another Captain, it's just not. It cannot do anything to help the channel, but it is fun, and it does engage with you, my dear audience. So I'm going to try and finish that. However, it's not a priority and it's my fault. It's my fault. I tried something and it just wasn't the right time for it. But stay tuned, Stonecrow. Well, there's more to come on that. Starfury says Atlas caused the AI uprising and believes every death since is her fault. Can you blame her for being a loner and an antisocial asshole? Well, but that presupposes that I care. Like, I don't care. Who cares? Oh no! In this totally AI generated possible science fiction future, there was an AI uprising, and nondescript middle-aged woman, unfortunately, was part. Who cares? I don't care. You've got to give me a reason to be invested in this world before I listen. Stop here. Your avatar is Garrus Vakarian, okay? The greatest character in Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a brilliantly constructed science fiction world, and when I say brilliant, it is genius. Okay. The Mass Effect world is. Every level of it tells a story. Every level of it. The technology tells a story. The alien cultures tell a story. The planets you visit. I cannot tell you how many hours and hours and hours I whiled away on that game just reading the planet descriptions. Just reading the planet description. In fact, what was the name of that? Yeah, I actually have the name of this random planet you scan in the Mass Effect game. I have it actually saved. Hang on a second. Oh no, I froze. All right, share screen. Oh, I should not even load up this site because it's like the worst for like, oh my God. It's such garbage, these wiki sites. But anyway, okay, so this is a planet that you come across in Mass Effect. It's called Mitrum. Can I just read the description for you? A small hot rock with few resources, Mitrum is used by the Turian armed forces for its maximum security prison and interrogation centers. The temperatures are high enough to prevent any escape without an environmental suit, but low enough the construction of additional buildings will not be hindered. Over 500,000 prisoners are detained on Mitrum, only a handful of which have ever managed even a temporary escape. A small supply economy and prefab habitat support the prison staff, who usually work only for 2-year tours of duty before they are rotated out to less stressful positions. Surface temperature is 74 degrees Celsius. Hey Siri, convert 74 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit.
74 degrees Celsius is 165.2
Good Lord. See, I don't understand Celsius. We don't use that antiquated system in America. We use a much more advanced system called Fahrenheit. 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Good Lord. Just to put that in perspective, like the hottest it gets in like Phoenix, Arizona is like 120 degrees. And that's cooking. That is cooking. Any much higher than that, and I literally think it's like, I don't even think human life can be supported above that. It's like, so anyway. Look at the story that tells. Just one little planet. One little planet. And I remember reading that, right? And I immediately am like, my mind is on fire with ideas. I'm just like, dude, I did a Mass Effect RPG campaign in which that was a setting. I said, okay, the characters are going to go to Mitram and they got to break someone out of this prison. And I just thought it's you could make a whole movie. You could make a whole movie about that little prison. It's on this, it's like a, Chronicles of Riddick kind of thing. It's like this isolated prison. It makes sense. So what is my point? My point is that the world itself absorbs me when I'm watching, when I'm playing Mass Effect or when I'm watching Star Trek. The very world itself absorbs me. When I'm watching Atlas, it's like I might as well be watching a music video. There's no actual substance. It's like I don't have a reason to care about anything in this world, and the plot is so. I'm not criticizing you, Starfury. Don't get me wrong. We're just nerds arguing in a comic shop here. It's so vanilla. What else can I say? And I'm a pretty vanilla guy. That's vanilla as hell, even for me. That's like oh gee, AI took over. And Also, you know what bugs the shit out of me? They just name drop stuff. Like they're like, oh, there's a planet in the Andromeda galaxy. That's 1.5 million light years away. Like, you can travel. This is, what's so weird is that this movie Atlas acts as though this is the near future. And in fact, there's even a scene in which a character, yeah, that's right. Atlas's mother is talking about when her daughter was little and they were still using smartphones. Does anybody remember smartphones? And she's not that old, too. She's like in her 40s, maybe, and she's addressing an audience about smartphones. And I'm like, dude, that implies, let's just work out the numbers here. That implies that we're something like, I'm at the outside. We're like 80 years in the future here. Okay. They have technology that can warp them to the Andromeda galaxy. That's so ridiculous. That's so over the top. Forget about AI. We can literally explore anything. We can go to the Large Magellanic Cloud. We can go to 5 neighboring galaxies. We can go anywhere in the Milky Way. What's out there? How many alien species are there? None of that is explored. No, we're going to have this dopey, run-of-the-mill copycat of the oldest AI plot ever. It's the most boring thing you could possibly explore in this world. Starfury, just listen to me, man. Think about this. The movie is about a future within a century in which we can just teleport to another galaxy. Now that is more than enough for a movie concept, right? Because then we've got to talk about, okay, that's a concept, right? It's 80 years in the future. Humanity can literally teleport to any galaxy we want, or let's just say within 10 galaxies. Anywhere within 10 galaxies of us, we can go right there. We could explore thousands and thousands of worlds. We could go anywhere. What would we do with that kind of technology? Where would we go? What would our society look like? In just 80 years from now, we can do that? That requires such a level of unpacking from a science fiction level. The least of our concerns should be some dopey cliched plot, some hackneyed plot about some AI rebellion. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's why I can't even with this, I just can't even with Atlas. It's so ridiculous. Why couldn't they just say he was in Alpha Centauri? Why couldn't they just say that? Why couldn't they just say, okay, he's in Alpha Centauri. It's like 4 years away. Or 4 light years. Or hell, I'll even give him like Arcturus. I think, hey Siri, how far is the Arcturus star system? This is a hail. Oh, geez, I could do that. Geez, Siri, you know, you really don't work that hard for the money anymore. Arcturus star system. How far is it? Oh, God, it creeps me out that Google Gemini is... How far away? You know, Gemini is not improving anything at all. It's just an annoying first result that I ignore on my way to, like, the actual result that I want. 36 light years. Yeah, I was about to say 30. I was close. I can't believe I actually kind of knew that. All right, so it's about 36 light years away. All right, cool. Why can't you just say that that's where Harlan is? He's 36 light years away. We'll have to put you in cryosleep. Why not? Every other sci-fi cliche is in this. We have to put you in cryosleep. It's a 2-year trip, and that's where you gotta go. And it's the farthest away that we can go. That would have been reasonable. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. This is like 80 years in the future. It's like, actually, you know, here's a better idea. It's 80 years in the future. Society's very advanced. You know, I've always thought this myself. If Skynet really did come to fruition, right? And AI the machines rose up, right? Why stay here? Why would Skynet want to stay here? They don't have to stay here. They're machines. They're metal. They can survive in virtually any environment that's not like too hot. It doesn't have to have an atmosphere. It doesn't even have to have an oxygen atmosphere. It could be Mars. They could go to Mars and be fine. They could go to a relatively stable moon somewhere that doesn't have too strong of radiation. In other words, we can live in this narrow little sliver of like habitability. The machines would have like this wide of a sliver, so they could just go live on some airless moon and just build to infinity, just mine for metals and just, replicate themselves. They wouldn't need to even hang around Earth. Who cares, right? Just go, they'll leave us. We're stuck here because we're still oxygen breathing primates. We can't figure out how to breathe anywhere else. Now, that's right there. A better idea is like, why is Harlan such a threat? Oh, because we were this close to wiping out Harlan and all of his, they keep calling them AI terrorists. God, it's so cringe. It's another thing. Nobody cares about terrorist plots anymore. That was like 20 years ago when 24 was airing. Nobody cares about that anymore. Nobody believes in terrorists anymore. They're like the Easter Bunny. No one cares about that. Why are you calling him that? It's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's like someone was time warped from the year 2004 to write this stupid plot. Anyway, so the reason Harlan is such a threat in my hypothetical rewrite of this insanely stupid film is that he just goes to an airless moon 1 light year away, and we can't get to him. And he just replicates a bunch of machines, and he sends them to us, and they just. And just every year, another packet of these machines arrives, causes a bunch of havoc, takes out a few satellites, maybe once in a while, takes out like a city, a nuke gets through, bam, there goes Paris. What are we gonna do? Well, and then we send stuff to him. Well, it doesn't matter because he's got this whole defense net, and it's like, and it takes a year for our shit to get there. He shoots them all down. What are we gonna do? Well. Our astronauts have been working on a secret plan that even Harlan doesn't know. In fact, that could even be the stupid rationale for why his agent is here. His agent was here to kill the scientists or to infiltrate the NASA base. Whatever. And it's like in the film Interstellar. It's like this is a Hail Mary plan. And we've assembled all of our best scientists. We've even invented these new walking machines. We've got all this cool tech. And we need our top scientist, J-Lo. And she's got to go as an advisor because there's not going to be any communication. Once you leave the solar system, that's it. You're out there for a few years. You're out of contact. You're on your own. Tell me, Starfury. Tell me that's not 1,000 times more interesting. There's no stupid holographic displays. There's no ridiculous, just ludicrous lines of dialogue just casually dropping that we can teleport to Andromeda. No, we don't have any of that crap. It's just this problem that we have is that on another planet somewhere, that this machine is sending us all these drones and we can't stop it. We got to go to the den and we got to flush them out. And it's a Hail Mary trip, and it better work, because if it doesn't, it's an AI generated film, man. It sucks. It really does. I hope Starfury doesn't. I'm not criticizing you. Don't misunderstand. This is how I am, dude. My own friends hate me. They do. My real life friends are like, why you gotta ruin the movie for me, Garrett? I'm like, because it sucks. That's why. So YouTube is where I go now. I go to YouTube now. Sleepy J-Lo. She is. She's Sleepy J-Lo. She's confused, man. She looks afraid. Why is she an expert? She's not an expert. Dude, I'm going to break down this scene, okay? We're going to get to this. Stop here. He says, hot take here. There has never been a decent space battle in action movies. Sorry, all the best space battles are from anime. Space Battleship Yamato, Legend of Galactic Hero. Oh, stop here. Shots fired. Oh my God, What? Has Starfury, has he been hacked? His accounts do occasionally get hacked. No. But, hello, the battle in Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan is brilliant. There's about 5 or 6 brilliant battles in the Battlestar Galactica Reimagined series. The first miniseries episode, the Battle of the Nebula, where they have to escape. What is the Ragnar Station? The Battle of Ragnar Station in the first. The battle in Hand of God in Battlestar Galactica is brilliant. And when I say the battle, I mean the story of it, why it's happening, the tactical scenario, how it plays out, the sort of little twists and turns, the reversals of fortune as the battle goes on. Like, no, there are great space battles in science fiction. The battle in Star Trek VI, Undiscovered Country, with Kirk and Chang is great. Yeah, it's great. This cloaked warbird that can fire while cloaked, which is it's the only existing prototype, and it's got the Enterprise dead to rights, and Chang is just toying with them. He's just like a cat playing with a mouse, and he's quoting Shakespeare while he just willy-nilly fires torpedoes. All the meanwhile, right, Kirk and his crew are trying to figure out how to stop this thing. That was great. That's great dramatic tension. That's a great setup. That makes a lot of sense. You can follow the tactical scenarios. Oh, I could name so many of these. For you, Starfury. What's another really good space battle? Well, I think the Trench Run in, the A New Hope. I think the battle against the Death Star is pretty brilliant. I think that's a really good one. Man, I feel like because you understand the sides, you roughly understand the military strength of each side. What are some other good space battles in fiction? That's a really good question to ponder. I really love in the finale of Battlestar Galactica, the final battle at the Cylon space station with an old, basically with a Battlestar Galactica that is falling apart. And it shouldn't even be in battle because it's so decrepit at this point, but it's like they have no choice. And so they just slug it out. That was a great battle. I actually think the space battle at the end of Mass Effect 2 is really well done. And I don't even think Mass Effect does a good job of space battles usually, but I do think the space battle in Mass Effect 2 at the end during the suicide mission is very well done. Because you understand the tactics behind it. It involves ground combat with Shepard in the cargo bay, but then also there's the question of, did you upgrade all the systems to withstand the assault? They even explain why the ships don't survive transiting through the Omega-4 relay. That all is great. That's great stuff, man. I'm sorry, Starfury. I must disagree with you, so. Respectfully. Respectfully, so. Stormcore says, no, no, Stormcore. Oh, you're trying to trap the captain. I'm not suicidal. Well, I shouldn't even say that word on YouTube. No, I'm not going to do that. Jeez. What are you trying to do to me? I'm not going to do that accent. I would never do that accent. But I will say Pedro Pascal. I will say Pedro Pascal. I will do that. I will do that. Because Pedro Pascal is a stunning and brave Latinx actor. No more captain. What is the captain voice? I don't even know. Words 789. Does anyone else think it's odd that she was called Furiosa as a kid? I assume she got the name after being a badass warrior or pulling some crazy stunt. That is a welcome aboard, word 1789. Good to see you, Captain Salute. And that is an excellent point. I was thinking the very same thing as I'm watching the movie. Okay, by the way, I fired up Mad Max Fury Road before this stream because I was I do like that movie and I was wanting to rewatch it. Her official title in the Fury Road film is Imperator Furiosa. Now, in the Furiosa prequel that I just watched, should we do spoilers? I guess we should. You let me know, chat, if you don't want spoilers or not. But all I will say is they connect it. They connect it at the end, like how she is who she is at the end, at the beginning of Fury Road. But her title in this one is Praetorian Furiosa, which doesn't actually make any sense. It's like, well, then how did she get the title Imperator Furiosa? Because I can't get into it because of spoilers, but I'll just say that the way they really line up the two films at the end, they line them up like pretty seamlessly, and I think that's a huge error. I don't know why they did that. But to your point, the very name Furiosa implies the Mad Max wasteland. It implies the Mad Max world. It implies the bizarre. In fact, Immortan Joe's entire cult is based on an imitation of ancient Roman culture. Which, by the way, that's a whole rabbit hole I could go down, because I find the fact that all the wasteland gangs in Mad Max emulate, at least in this Fury Road world, I would say, they all emulate Roman culture, which I find very fascinating, because if you look at it, Western civilization is almost entirely modeled on the ancient Roman Republic and or Empire, depending on specifically which country. But basically, there are even scholars that argue that Rome never fell. Western civilization is the continuation of Rome. It's because all of its cultural influence carried all 2,000 years. Rome basically transmuted into Western civilization as we know it. So I do find it interesting that all the characters are emulating ancient Rome. Now, my point is, Imperator that's a Latin term for, emperor, essentially. Well, that's not exactly right. There was like a lower ranking official in ancient Rome that was referred to as an imperator. I don't remember what they did. They weren't the emperor, but so that's a Roman title. The name Furiosa has a kind of Latin ancient Rome quality to it. So to your point, I think that, yes, I think the original intention was that her name Furiosa was a name that was part of Immortan Joe's cult. So it doesn't actually really make sense that this fairy tale Garden of Eden that she's from is what named her Furiosa. I think there's a lot of problems with that as the film goes on. So we'll get into that. Starfury says, if he stops the English accent, how will I know I'm seen? It's not an English accent. It's just me screwing around, Starfury. So I hope you're not offended. I love British culture. I do. I really do. In the way that, like, the War Boys in Mad Max, Fury Road, Furiosa, whatever, in the same way that the War Boys idolize Roman culture, well, they kind of mix up Roman culture with Viking culture because they talk about Valhalla and all that stuff. So they're doing a mishmash. But in the same way that they idolize Roman culture, so I idolize British culture. If I were leading a post-apocalyptic war band, I would definitely model it after the British Navy And I'd probably have some tattered, British naval coat, but I probably wouldn't be in charge of much for long. I think I would be kind of like I'd probably be more likely to be the guy that is writing all the stuff on him, memorizing all of the ancient lore of the civilization. Yes, Fuban Blue, I agree with Words 789 makes a good point. And Words also says loved Zachary Quinto during his rendition of Khan, Member Berry's Overload. Yeah, like I know what you're talking about when he introduces himself to Kirk in Into Darkness, and he's like, Kirk is like, who are you? Because they have no idea who he is. They've never heard of Khan. They don't know who it is. They don't know any of that. And what does he say? He says I forget his exact words, but it was something along the lines of like, my real name is Khan. And there's this awkward silence because is that a character I'm supposed to know? Nobody knows who that is. It was so meta. It was so meta. Only the audience knows who that is. That's why it was so bad, because only the audience knows that. The characters don't know this, because this is a new timeline. Anyway. Only Starfury says, only Dredd as Dr. McCoy was anything good in Star Trek. The rest was shit. I agree with you, Starfury. I'm sorry. I'm still doing it. I agree with you, because Carl Urban was a great Dr. McCoy. Well, honestly, though, I think pretty much all of the cast was pretty good. That's part of what kind of snookered me, is that, I've changed my mind about Chris Pine. At first, I did like Chris Pine's performance as a young Kirk, but now I see that J.J. Abrams really bastardized that character, because he really retooled Kirk into a reckless idiot. He kind of turned him into a reckless idiot. If you watch the original series of Star Trek, that's not Kirk. Yeah, well, it's a different timeline, Captain. His father was killed. I know. But my point is that's not Kirk. Kirk was a man of enlightenment. He was a highly proficient officer. He was a professional. He actually is fairly intellectual and eloquent in a lot of his arguments in the original series. So turning him into this kind of hot rod, almost Tony Stark-like character was kind of ridiculous, I think. There are times where Chris Pine brings it down a notch, and he kind of settles into a kind of classic Kirk. But anyway. But Zachary Quinto as Spock was pretty good. Who else was it? Anton Yelton as who cares? I really love Carl Urban though as Bones. And speaking of, I just watched Dredd again. Oh my God, that movie is so good. It is so good. And by the way, Tom, if you're out there, because Tom told me, he said, I was watching Dredd and there's that scene in which Anderson, one of the evil judges, says, if Anderson sees me first, she hesitates and I shoot her. If I see her first, I shoot and she's dead, right? Because it's a traitor judge firing on a friendly judge, right? And Tom was saying to me that there was a technical error in the plot because the evil judge, when she encounters Judge Anderson reads her mind and kills her, right? And he said, well, that totally went back on that because evil judge said, if I see her first, I kill her. If she sees me first, she hesitates and then I shoot her, right? And what happened was, evil judge just waited for Anderson to shoot her instead, which doesn't make any sense. Well, I rewatched it and I was like, no, actually it does make sense because what happened was Anderson saw evil judge first. So evil judge was like pointing her gun and she's like, what are you doing, rookie? I'm a friendly, right? Because what was happening there was evil judge was waiting for Anderson to lower her guard just as she planned, and then she was going to shoot her. The problem is she didn't know that Anderson has psychic powers and could read her mind, and then so anyway, it works. It works. I I went down a rabbit hole there. Starfury, I'm trying to catch up on the chat. It's taking me forever because I'm talking too much. Starfury says, what Russell T. Davies proves is that you should never revisit your past glories as it will ultimately destroy your legacy. Very true. Also, he's just an asshole that's destroying the sandcastle on his way out. There's a great deal of selfishness. There's a great deal of selfishness in the social justice way of looking at everything. It's my way or the highway. And also, I hate fascism. And also, I'll destroy you if you disagree with me. They're so stunning and brave. Anyway, Fuban Blue says it's almost like he's trying to reach back and change his past to reflect his current day ideals. I wouldn't call them ideals. I know what you mean. I'm just saying. It's like Starfury says Atlas is one of those movies that is shit. I know it's shit, but I still not so secretly enjoy. That doesn't mean I don't love reading Asimov or loving the depth of storytelling in Mass Effect. Fair enough. Plus, J-Lo still has a nice artist. I didn't see it in that movie. I probably didn't watch long enough. Fuban Blue says, yeah, J-Lo's ass transcends time. It actively resists the effects of gravity itself, perhaps. Staffieri says that smartphone they were referencing had holographic features, so your time frame is inaccurate. Oh, for God's sakes, Starfury. For God's sakes, man. Well, to be fair, I kept looking away from the screen because I was like, I got shit to do. So, you're fine. You've got the captain on that one. Dude, Starfury, you cannot convince me that you care enough about this movie to like, literally, you're gonna, like, EFAP it. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen, man. You don't even care enough. I'm not kidding. Starfury says, on my list is to watch the original Chinese production rather than the lesser Western version. Of Three Body Problem, you mean? Yeah, I need to talk about Three Body Problem because I have thoughts about that too. Anthony says, J-Lo farts smell like Ben Affleck. Thank you, Anthony, for saying what we were all thinking. Starfury says, I have come to detest the West reinventing superior material and feeding the swill to the proletariat. It's not even that. Like Argyle, for example, wasn't even, well, I know you're talking about, they're sort of taking like Eastern concepts and what have you. Maybe you just mean generally. Anyway, Argyle was not even taking the original concept of James Bond and memeing on it. It was taking the meme of James Bond and memeing on it, which is one of the... So that's my point with Atlas, is that Atlas is not referencing great sci-fi works. Atlas is referencing corporate marketing videos of what science fiction is. Like, it literally is like the film within the film in Fall Guy to me. If you go watch Fall Guy, because this is how nerdy I am. I am literally analyzing the film within the Fall Guy film as though it were real, and I'm saying, is this a film I would actually go watch? And I'm thinking, no, this is a film I would make fun of because it's dumb as hell, and it has nothing to do... I know that that's not the point, right? It's like you're not supposed to actually take it seriously, but I still do, because I'm like, well, if this film... She's supposed to be this great director. The film is about... It's a great hit at the end of the day, but it wouldn't be though. It wouldn't be though. It would be like Dave Filoni garbage is what it would be, right? And so I'm telling you that stupid film within a film in the Fall Guy is better than Atlas. Atlas is more fake and AI generated to me than even that. So there you go. I got to let up on poor Starfury. I say that jokingly because he's the master gunner for a reason. He's out there, folks. Starfury is out there. You never know where he might strike. Now, Anthony says, somebody started talking about J-Lo's ass. I had to weigh in. Fart jokes continue. I'm summarizing my chat. Fart jokes continue. Staffier, I think he might be agreeing with me. I can't be for sure. He might be agreeing with someone else in the chat. But he says, I agree your premise is better, but don't take away my holographic displays, you arsehole. All I'm saying, Starfury, is that everything in this movie, Atlas, I swear to God, it came from Adobe stock. That's all I'm saying. It's the most obvious... Take the film Avatar, which I am an unapologetic fan of the James Cameron Avatar film. Like the scenes where they're in that control center, the corporate control center, where all the corporate goons are working, you know. I just thought, hang on, cough button for a second. I just thought that like those kind of clear. Now, again, this is like 14 years ago when this was a little. Now it's pretty overdone, this concept, but it was like clear panels that had computer readouts on them, and they would pull the panel like an iPad, and then they would stick it in to another computer, or they would tap it on something, and the display would transfer over. Right. And I just thought just a little detail like that. I thought that was cool. It looked kind of stylish. It seemed functional. The iPad was a kind of recent thing in those days. It was only a few years old. That looked really cool. Right. So I'm saying that there's a way to get at it where there's a little bit of style and uniqueness to it. And that's where I give Cameron credit, is that James Cameron is still able to create, and George Miller, by the way, is able to create unique and interesting wasteland iconography, just as James Cameron is still very good at creating unique and interesting military science fiction iconography. Starfury says, by the way, criticize me to your heart's content. It makes me laugh. It's like Starfury. He's like, I laugh at you, sir. I know. I just, you know, I'm a nice guy. What can I say? Oh, you know what? I don't have all my screens up, and I totally missed this. Wrangler with a $4.20 super chat. Why, thank you, Wrangler. It's because I had my browser crashed. And not only that, Fu Man Blue with another $4.20 super chat. My cup runneth over. Well, thank you. Thank you. You're taking after Wrangler's trend of simply leaving a $4.20 and just moonwalking right out the saloon doors, as the young Ripa would have it. Oh, no. Oh, you're derailing the entire stream, Starfury. You're going to turn the whole stream into you and me arguing about space battles. Starfury says, sorry, all of them? Geez, Starfury. Sorry, all the battles you cite are all versions of either sub-battles or... Well, what do you want? It's space. It's a three-dimensional plane of battle. Jeez, I think I'm persnickety. All right, from the top. Sorry, all the battles you cite are all versions of either sub-battles or naval battles. They do not have the true immensity of large-scale space battles shown in Legend of Galactic Heroes. Well, I mean, I haven't seen Legend of Galactic Heroes, and you may indeed be correct in this matter. So I won't dispute that specific claim here about Legend of Galactic Heroes. But what I will say is that if you watch the season finale of Star Trek Discovery, STD, Season 2, you will see an extraordinarily large-scale battle in which the Enterprise deploys all these drones and conducts this ridiculous drone-infested battle that has no basis in the original Star Trek lore. And there's a guy on YouTube that broke this down of like why this is such an insanely stupid battle, because you don't understand what's happening. It's just a bunch of random stuff. First of all, all of the battles I cite, well, they have to be modeled on something. Star Wars was modeled on aerial battles in World War II. That makes a lot of sense for X-Wings and X-Fighters. Listen, Battlestar Galactica is actually modeled off of the idea of an aircraft carrier group, which is not a submarine stuff, today. And they're very well. Listen, they model some of the tactics on naval warfare and submarine warfare because you need some kind of basis to understand how a battle would unfold, right? However, I do think that the tactics within each individual science fiction world inform what's possible and what isn't. I do think they do that. Now, you can have all these sweeping, crazy battles, like let's take Revenge of the Sith, right? Which opens with that spectacle over Coruscant, where all of the Republic forces are fighting all the Separatist forces, and it's beautiful to look at. but it actually doesn't mean anything until we zoom in on a story, right? Now, my point is, a large sweeping battle is really not actually an action set piece yet. It is the setting. It's the setting, right? As the wasteland is to a car chase, so the large sweeping battle is to a battle action sequence. And therefore, I think the most interesting science fiction space battles usually are like one ship versus one or two other ships, because that's interesting tactical back and forth. It's an intimate battle. We know the players. But if you're seeing like a large sweeping battle take place, there still has to be a story within it that has, ups and downs and reversals of its own. There has to be multiple beats within every action sequence to make it work. This is true of John Wick. This is true of ancient sword and sandals films like Gladiator or Troy, which I think Troy, which is not a perfect film, but I still sort of love it anyway. It tells stories with its battles, both its one-on-one battles, its epic battles. It has a way of doing that. But I think the way to do that is to make the large, grand battle a backdrop for what's actually the focus of the story. And I think that Battlestar Galactica does this very well, the reimagined series. Starfury says, Legend of Galactic Heroes has truly amazing admiral commanding their forces coupled with the political shenanigans of the politicians trying to screw up their victories of their commanders. Perhaps. Fu Man Blue says, is Latin an early Latinx language? I'm sure it is. Anthony says, have you discussed Atlas yet? I'm weaving it in, Anthony. I'm discussing part and parcel. In fact, I'm going to break down a scene comparison directly. Anthony says, Urban was good as Judge Dredd. He was brilliant. He was exceptional as that character, Anthony. Tom is in the chat. Ahoy! Ahoy, Tom. I was just telling you how I think the error you spotted in Judge Dredd, I rewatched it. I don't think that's an error. Fu Man Blue says J.J. Abrams gave us James Kirk. Thanks. What did you say? Jamie Kirk? Yes, thanks, J.J. He gave us Sad Sack Kirk. And by the way, George Miller's comments about a possible old Mad Max coming back are chilling. They're chilling. Because he went straight to, I haven't really thought about the idea of bringing back an old sad sack trying to fix things. And I'm like, dude, these Hollywood people, they literally don't know how to tell the story of an old hero who's not a sad sack, like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We tend to attribute it to like wokeness and intersectional feminism. Sometimes it's that, but honest to God, it's just a reminder to me that literally it's just the trope, man. It's just the trope. I guarantee you there's a lot of well-meaning writers out there they just think that's the only way to do an old guy now. The sad side of the times. All right, so I think I'm pretty much caught up. Anthony says, no joke, you really did try to watch Atlas, and like 20 minutes in, I was like, I think I'm going to go hang out on YouTube. I watched it for 5 minutes last night, and I could not take it. And I actually went back to watching the old Mad Max films, which is much better. And then I watched Furiosa, and I watched a few more minutes before the stream. It's bad. It's bad. It is. I cannot believe Starfury likes it. But, hey, I like Avatar. What can I say? I love Stranger Things season 2 and 3. And everyone hates Stranger Things season 2 and 3. So there you go. I have plenty of, and I enjoyed Fury Road. I did. But then again, I wasn't a Mad Max OG fan, so that's fair enough. But anyway, that's like a new Trek fan saying, I really like Discovery and the Abrams ones much better than the old ones. I'm like, get the fuck out. Anthony Timmons says, I'll send you my termination papers copied in triplicate. I'll probably be swearing off all beef hot dogs and Dr. Pepper as well. I have no idea what that's in reference to. Starfury says, there is no up in space, and thus all conventional battles shown on film are effectively two-dimensional, except for the battle in Wrath of Khan, which is the model of a classic sub-battle. I don't understand what's wrong with that, Starfury. What's wrong with modeling space, which is a three-dimensional battlefield? What's wrong with modeling that on a submarine? That seems to make a lot of sense to me. I'm just saying. Man. Starfury, with a £2 with a £2 super chat. Thank you, Starfury. You are an officer and a gentleman, sir. Please keep roasting my bad takes. I may have to. We're going to do an Atlas scene-by-scene comparison breakdown, okay? I promise this is also relevant to my thoughts on Furiosa. I get this from Az. Az of Heels versus Babyface, or I don't know. How do you pronounce it? Anyway, Heel versus Babyface. He always rolls his R's in that British way, and I find that fun to do. It's fun to do. Anthony says Indiana Jones in the diaper of destiny. I prefer to I like to pronounce it the way who wrote it, like the way Kathleen Kennedy pronounces it and James Mangold pronounces it in their head, is Dial of Destiny. Because they're so excited. I know what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Dial of Destiny. It's like, that's the dumbest title I've ever heard. It's the stupidest title I've ever heard. And they think they're geniuses. Now, this is the feeling I get from Atlas. Like, that's one of the things I can't stand about Atlas. It's like they think they're so genius that they're just like, I trust Atlas. I don't trust Atlas. Well, you're gonna trust Atlas because I trust it. Oh my God, you're doing me headed. You're doing me headed with this shit dialogue. I can't stand it. And Starfury likes it. It's insane. It's ridiculous. The impudence. The impudence. Yes. Fu Man Blue says, how did he gloss over Jamie Kirk like Jake Skywalker? Come on, you guys. Jamie Kirk. He's Jamie Kirk, man. He's Jamie. He's a snot-nosed little brat who doesn't like his evil stepfather. What do you want from me, Fu Man? What do you want from me? I agree with you. He's Jamie Kirk. He's emo Kirk. He's like an emo. That's basically what he is. Fu Man Blue says, that's how we keep you sharp, Starfury. Good. It's the master at arms doing his job. Anthony says, Iger, Kennedy, and Feige, the three Shamigos. Okay. And they all say to them, like, it's Dial of Death. It's the Dial of Destiny. Because American audience, because all of our audiences really are hayseed hicks, and they're too stupid to understand the Dial of Archimedes or the Archimedes device or what they can't, or the what's the actual pronunciation? The Antikythera mechanism, is that what it is? I can't even spell that because I'm a hayseed hick. Well, let's face it. I will grant them that something spelled with this much difficulty, probably not a good title, but there's still a way to get at this. The Antikythera, God, that's a great word, isn't it? I just love saying that. The Antikythera mechanism, the Antikythera mechanism. I could say that all day long and never get tired. Yeah, our audiences are stupid. They are stupid, hayseed hicks, and they don't understand things like the Antikythera mechanism. And so we need to call it something that their clay-like brains can process, such as Dial of Destiny. That's what they call it. Starfury says, the Wrath of Khan battle took place at close quarters, hence my critique of the battle. By the way, I absolutely lave Wrath of Khan. I think you meant love, Starfury. And particularly the final battle. But I can be critical because I am nerd. As are we all. Look at that. And Fu Man Blue is going to roast the shit out of you for that one. Okay, let's talk. Okay, I want to do a side-by-side with Atlas, okay? There is a scene in Atlas in which she is supposed to be briefing. She's supposed to be briefing the troops on they're about to drop on this planet in freaking Andromeda Galaxy. We're in the Andromeda Galaxy now. It's so stupid. Why? Like, why is that necessary? It's like, anyway. So they're in the Andromeda Galaxy, and they're getting ready to drop on this planet. And the Colonel brings up their expert, J-Lo. And she shuffles into the she shuffles into the hangar bay, right? Hangar bay, and there's all these really diverse and inclusive, very hardcore soldiers, and they're all gathered around. Could I do that? I gotta be careful here. I wish I could find this on video. I probably couldn't show it anyway because I'd get like a copyright claim, but I'll just describe it for you. So there's all these hardcore mech pilots, and they're all gathered around waiting for a tactical briefing of the mission. She comes in with this ream of files, these paper files. I already knew exactly what was going to happen. They're going to make fun of her because she's using paper, which they immediately like, how did she find a printer? She's stupid because we're in the future. And in the future, nobody uses paper, which is why we're saying that. Okay, fine, whatever. And she starts handing out the paper because the idea is that she uses analog stuff because she doesn't trust the machines. I don't trust the machines. I don't trust them. Anyway. She hands out this tactical briefing. This is your packet with all the important tactical information you need to know because we're dropping on this planet. We're going to take out Harlan, the AI terrorist. And she said, what does she say at the beginning of the scene? She just goes into, he's on this planet. It has a hostile atmosphere. Immediately, I'm e-fapping this in my mind. Okay, I'm thinking immediately they already know this. They already know this. We are in space. We are on a mission in space. They already know that this is the planet they're going to drop on. But whatever. So she starts explaining that the atmosphere is hostile, which is why he chose to be here. Really? Why? In the freaking Andromeda Galaxy? Out of a billion planets, he picked this one because it kind of has this slightly toxic atmosphere. What? I don't even understand that. But whatever. So we're going to drop down and take him out now. And this is where she goes into the kind of tactical briefing part of it. She says, Harlan is extremely dangerous. He's very tricky. He knows lots of things and he can turn the tables on you. And they're like, oh my God, why are we listening to her? And then they're like, be respectful. And then she says, you guys don't understand. AI almost destroyed our world. Harlan almost destroyed our world. All of it. All of it could be gone. This could all end tomorrow. And she kind of launches into this kind of crazy, hysterical speech. And then the Colonel stops. All right, that's enough for today. That's enough for today, J-Lo. And he scoots her out of the room. And then he says, all right, folks, we drop in 5. And I'm like, wait a minute. She did. Well, but they didn't brief him on anything. They didn't explain, okay, here's his base. This is the topography. Now, we think he won't expect an attack from this direction, but this is going to be tight, folks. So make sure that none of that. There's none of that. It's just like, oh, no. She comes in, explains the atmosphere is toxic. They push back a little. She then launches into a hysterical recounting of everything they already know. How did they already know this? Because they lived through it on Earth. They all lived through it. They don't need a history lesson about the fact that the AI almost killed us. That's why we're here. That's why this whole stupid movie is taking place. So she launches into hysterics. She gets ushered out by the Colonel. The Colonel, without explaining any tactical plan whatsoever, then says, we drop in 5, folks. Be ready. Fuck, this is so insanely stupid. Now, if you just take like the Ready Room briefings in the Battlestar Galactica show, which, by the way, happened regularly in the Battlestar Galactica series, you would have Leah Dama or you would have Kara Thrace, and they would be at the podium and they would be briefing the Viper pilots on their missions. Sometimes it would be run-of-the-mill patrols, but even those scenes, by the way, always told a story. Always. There was always a story, even if the story of the scene was they're bored, they're stressed out, and they're itching for action. because there's nothing out there. That's a story. Like, that's part of the story, right? But in the serious tactical battles, Leodama or Kareth Race would lay out an explanation of the tactical situation, and they would give them sort of plausible warnings, like, stay close to your wingman, do not deviate. You will be tempted in that soup to, like, break apart, but don't do that. The Cylons will cut you to pieces. You know, they would give them, in other words, they would give them tactical advice, right? So this entire scene is completely pointless. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's actually a way better scene, and it's in Aliens. It's in Aliens when the current Gorman is briefing the Marines, and he brings up Ripley, who is a civilian, and from their perspective, she doesn't know anything about a tactical scenario, but he brings her up to talk about the alien. And the same thing starts to play out, right? Then I watched that scene again, and I said, oh my God, no, they thought this is what the Atlas writers thought they were doing. This is what they thought they were doing. They thought they were ripping off this scene in Aliens. I don't know how much of this I can show, but I'm probably just going to play little teeny pieces of it just to kind of give you a sense, because they will hit me hard, I'm sure, if I just let this play. But hang on one second. From the film Aliens, 1986, one of my favorite films of all time. I just love this film. I watched it again recently. It holds up like no other. You better believe it. Right, so this is the scene. They're getting ready to go down to this colony. Here's all the Marines, and they're being briefed on what they have to do.
All we know is that there's still no contact with the colony, and that a xenomorph may be involved.
Excuse me, sir. A what?
A xenomorph.
It's a bug hunt.
Right, so they start out the scene like they weren't briefed leaving, which is probably twofold, because the corporation did not want them to know the details of the mission because they didn't want to risk any data leaks. They start out by saying, is this going to be a straight-up fight or a bug hunt? And then he says that, and they're like, oh, it's another bug hunt. None of them have encountered this organism before, and they're all kind of looking skeptically at Ripley, like, what the hell's she doing here? And then he says something very important in this scene. He says, you all have a video recording, a disc with a recording of Ripley's report. I suggest you all listen to it before you get on the mission. That's important because it tells us that they have a detailed explanation briefing them before they go in. Then he invites her to speak, and she kind of bungles it.
We sat down on LV 426. One of our crew members was brought back on board with something attached to his face, some kind of parasite. We tried to get it off. It wouldn't.
Okay, so she basically just kind of recounts the events of the original film. It's very ominous. It's very scary, right? And actually, let me pull up. I got to grab something in the back office here because I got to be careful that they do not hit me for this. And also, I need to get the chat up anyway. So... And, okay, hang on. Let me also grab my chat from Rumble. We are live on Rumble, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter. And the link to the X channel is in the description. At the SNS channel is who we are on X. So check us out there. If you're enjoying the content, if you can put up with my accents, please like and subscribe. And share it out there. Okay. I have everything I need. Now, resuming with the quote. So she kind of starts giving this explanation about the aliens, and then Vasquez interrupts her. Because Vasquez, I think there's two things going on in this scene which are quite brilliant, which is that these are real tough hombres, as Paul Reiser explains in the movie, right? These are real tough hombres. Number one, they are kind of bored with eggheads explaining me to them because they just want to go shoot things. But that's actually more like a superficial reason. I always talk about the conscious layer of a character and the subconscious layer of a character. The conscious layer of the Marines is that they are trigger happy and they're itching for a fight. They've done this 1,000 times before. They're not that concerned. But the subconscious layer is This is scaring the hell out of them. She's telling them a story that is one of the most blood-curdling things they've ever heard, and it's starting to make them uncomfortable. And so Vasquez breaks the tension by saying this.
He seemed fine. We were all having dinner, and it must have laid something inside his throat, some sort of embryo. He started,
Look, man, I only need to know one thing. Where they are. Anytime.
Now, that is doing a lot of work in this scene because it's showing that Ripley is a fish out of water. She's a civilian. She does not understand how to speak to these people. These are tough soldiers. They have a one-track mind. That's for a reason. That's not because they're idiots, the way modern writers would think of it. It's not because they're trigger-happy goons. It's because they have a job to do. Their job is dangerous. They don't need to hear a bunch of ghost stories. All they need to know is, how do I kill it? That's the mission. We're going to get it done. And her kind of fumbling is starting to make everybody nervous, which is not a good thing for military morale. So there's a lot of things going on in this little moment, right? Now, Gorman steps in and saves her because he's like, all right, this isn't working. Rick is literally starting to kind of relive it in a kind of flashback way, which is not good. That's not good for morale. So Gorman steps in, okay?
are you finished?
Yeah, so Gorman steps in and he's about to excuse her. And I would just play it, but you know why I can't, because we're on YouTube and I got to be very, very careful with this. But Gorman steps in and is like, okay, that's enough, Ripley. They start laughing and kind of back chatting a little bit. And then she says this.
I hope you're right. I really do.
That is a brilliant save the cat moment for Ripley right there. Because she doesn't say, hey, shut up, you trigger-happy idiots. She actually gives them respect right there. She says, I actually hope you're right. I'm not trying to, like, get on a high horse here, is what that's communicating. She's saying, I hope to hell that we get down there and it's the most boring day you've ever had. But she's also concerned because they're not taking this seriously.
Yeah, okay, right. Thank you, Ripley. We also have Ripley's report on disk. I suggest you study
Because
it.
just one of those things managed to wipe out my entire crew in less than 24 hours. And if the colonists have found that ship, then there's no telling how many of them have been exposed. Do you understand?
Anyway, we have it on disk.
That is how it is done, folks. That is a brilliant, brilliant scene. I love that scene. It's not very long either. It's only a couple of minutes. Look at how many little reversals are in that one little moment, right? Now, why do I bring that up? Well, I compare that to Atlas, right? Because the whole point of that was this is a tactical briefing, and one of the very first things they say is you all have the report and you're expected to study it before we drop down there. Now, Ripley, come help us out a little. Ripley starts to get a little bit, not totally hysterical, but she starts to kind of go off the rails there. And that's not good for morale. And they kind of like start taking the piss out of her, as you Brits would say, Starfury. And Gorman's like, all right, come on, off you go. And then she realizes they're not taking it seriously. And she steps in and she kind of shakes them up because you see it, the look on their face, all the laughing stops. And it's like, okay, this is for real. There are so many levels of storytelling going on in that scene that, none of that is present in Atlas. In Atlas, it basically amounts to she shows up, they don't take her seriously, they kick her out of the meeting, and nothing got done. That's basically Atlas. The same scene in Atlas, nothing gets done. Nothing. There's no disc to study. There's no menacing. There's no menacing moment where Atlas kind of puts the fear of God in them. These are such amateurs at work in this movie. It's ridiculous. I can't even stand it. They don't understand why the scene in Aliens with Ripley works and why their stupid character of Atlas doesn't. Because they eat glue. Okay? They eat glue. Starfury says, I love Aliens so much. A revisit every year along with Lord of the Rings trilogy and Back to the Future trilogy. I know, man. I know. Those are all good. Those, I love, dude, I'm one of the wackos that loves Back to the Future too. I'm a weirdo that loves that movie. I really do. Back to the Future too, man. I just like how crazy it is. I love how they go to the future, and then they go to the past, and then they go back to the future, and then back to and then they get thrown into the deep past. I just think that's all great. I really love Marty McFly's caper and his kind of cat and mouse game with young Biff in the 50s in the second film. I really love that whole caper. I just think it's so edge of your seat and fun. So yeah, but definitely the first one is the best one. Like, there's no doubt about that. I would say the third Back to the Future was always my least favorite. I enjoy it, but yeah, somehow it's just a Western. It's just a back in time Western, but there's a lot of fun there. Okay, and more. So let's just get back into Furiosa a little bit. So here's why I bring up Furiosa. Now, here's what I will say. This is the Furiosa review. I actually pretty much love this movie. I pretty much liked it. I enjoyed it was here's the thing. As a spectacle, as an experience of a crazy, insane, almost fever dream wasteland road war. And by the way, that phrase road war is used brilliantly in the film. I love how they use that word in the film. It was like a 10 out of 10. Like, it was a 10 out of 10, just crazy, post-apocalyptic, full tilt, action-packed, almost visual novel is kind of what I would say. It was like reading a novel, but it's a movie, right? And it had a Tarantino-esque quality to it also, because he divides it into chapters. It's almost a series of vignettes. The story's not really told the way the other Mad Max films are, which is a kind of single event, and a typical feature film. This is more like an episodic tale. And on that level, it was great. It was great. I will tell you, the action sequences, the cars, the trucks, just the technology, the fortresses that they show you the different fortresses of the wasteland, which I really enjoyed. The economy of the wasteland, the lore and the world building of it all. I thought that was great. George Miller knows the tone and the mise en scène of his world. He understands it intimately. He has an absolute command of it. He's in my view, he's a very original filmmaker. One of the last that we have. And I have this I'm just making sure I'm getting names right. All right, good. So I have pulling up the IMDb. I had this weird feeling. I'm like, is it George Miller? And I'm second guessing myself. No, I'm correct. So George Miller has an absolute command of action sequences. Every action sequence in this tells a story. And the interesting thing about it is, not to get us going again, Starfury, but every battle in this movie is a kind of running naval battle on the road, which I find fascinating. The way he did this in The Road Warrior, the second Mad Max film, and he really did this well in Fury Road, which is this kind of running battle with a tanker functioning as a kind of battleship. And then you have cars that are functioning as kind of fighters. And then you've got weird things like paragliders that are functioning as bombers. It's fascinating. It's fascinating the way he builds this microcosm of what they call in the film road war. Folks, I think that's a really fun concept. I find that incredibly fun. There's a line in the movie. There's a character called Praetorian Jack, okay? I now understand why everyone was calling him a stand-in for Mad Max, not literally, but he's the archetype that Mad Max is, right? But he is, in the words of Jack Nicholson's Jokers, to Immortan Joe, he is my number one guy. And so he is Immortan Joe's number one road warrior, which is his job is to take this tanker full of supplies between the different fortresses of, from the Citadel, which is the bread basket of this post-apocalyptic economy where Immortan Joe is, to Gastown, which is the fuel producer, and then to the Bullet Farm, which is where they get all the ammunition and guns. And it's kind of an interesting deal. So they're trading weapons, fuel, and food around these fortresses. And the problem is getting from one to the other is a bitch. It is a B-I-itch because there are scavengers, raiders out there, and they're always trying to take it over. And I haven't even set up exactly the impetus. Yeah, I think you already know that the film basically begins with a young, little girl, Furiosa, who is living in this verdant canyon. It's this secret little canyon hideaway that's this little oasis in the wasteland. And it's filled with agriculture and trees. It's lush. It's beautiful. But it's hidden. Nobody can find it. Why? I don't know. But a few raiders manage to stumble upon it. And... they capture Furiosa, and we see that she is from a world where there are and that like they just go crazy over there. There's lots of solar panels and wind farms. There's solar panels. Now the solar panels, that makes a lot of sense. Well, so do the wind. This is the future in which solar panels and windmills make sense, by the way. A tiny wasteland economy where you're building civilization from scrap metal. Yes, in that environment, I think an economy driven entirely by solar panels and wind makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so it's basically like it's an SJW paradise, It's basically like everything it's communal, and there's solar panels and there's windmills. It's the Shire. It's basically the Shire of the wasteland, Which is fine. So they give you a nice shot of that. Furiosa, she gets abducted. Her mother and possibly her mother's lesbian... I don't know, honestly, but another woman joins her mother in the hunt. And there is a pretty spectacular chase where her mother is trying to get her back. And I found it oddly... I found it odd because I was like, why is this sequence continuing so long? But also I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was like, this is really fun to watch. And it was really a lot of fun. So there's this kind of protracted chase. Short of the long is, young Furiosa winds up getting taken by Chris Hemsworth's character, which is Dr. Was it Dementis? Yeah, Dr. Dementis. The names in this are fantastic. And he wants to find where this location is. He tries to torture it out of the mother and fails to get it out of her. And young Furiosa winds up a prisoner and a slave of Dr. Dementis. There is a crucial plot hole right at this moment in the film, and I'll come back to that. But anyway, that leads us into, she winds up kind of bartering. It's kind of complicated, but essentially, short of the long is, she winds up in the service of Immortan Joe, and Dr. Dementis winds up as the Lord of Gastown. And she wants to get home. That's basically the whole story. This is basically a story about she wants to go home. In fact, in the Blake Snyder Save the Cat beat sheets, what genre would this be? I'm tempted to say this is a superhero film, but it's almost a Golden Fleece story, but it actually doesn't really get there. It never actually develops into a Golden Fleece story because really Fury Road is a Golden Fleece story. So this is actually a superhero story, and Furiosa is the superhero. And her nemesis is Dr. Dementis, right? So that's basically what I would say. And that is the Blake Snyder Save the Cat genres I'm speaking of. Anyhow, so her journey is that she has to find a way to escape. She can't quite get out yet because it's a lot harder to escape the clutches of the War Boys and Immortan Joe than you would think. And so she winds up working with this other road warrior, Praetorian Jack. And he kind of starts teaching her, as he puts it, road war, which is a fantastic word for it. So the film proceeds apace. It turns into this essentially superhero epic, which is all about Furiosa having to, just by hook and by crook, claw her way to a position where she can escape and get home. And that's pretty much the driving, but along the way, shit goes down. And vendettas are formed and revenge must be had. And so on that level, it's all a pretty wonderful spectacle. I don't think there's actually a single action scene in this entire film I don't like. I think they're all fantastic, all of them. Even when I don't care that much about the characters in the action scene, I kind of just enjoy watching them. I'm like, wow. And the film score is excellent. Who's the composer? It's the same, got to be the same composer as the first one. Who did the music? I really despise the modern IMDb because IMDb used to just list cast, crew, and then it would have all the other bullshit. But now what it does is it gives you top cast and like that's it, and everything else is a bunch of freaking advertisements and bullshit trivia. And then they make you dig. Which defeats the entire purpose of IMDb. The Internet Movie Database is supposed to be about the filmmakers. This is me becoming a snooty film critic. It's supposed to be about the people who worked on the film. That's what IMDb is supposed to be about. Now it's about a bunch of bullshit advertisements. Anyway. All right. So I'm removing my soapbox now. It's like a tiny little link that says full cast and crew. Music. There it is. Jeez. Music department. Tom Holkenborg. Thank you. I had to dig for that one, chat. All right, Tom Holkenborg. I recall he did this music for the Fury Road as well. I love the soundtracks to those two films. They're just now. There's a fascinating this film has a pulse, which is a fascinating thing. Like the score is like every moment of this movie as you're watching it. The score is acting like a kind of engine that's running in the background, and it starts to rev up when things get crazy. It cycles down when things are in a lull, but it's always there. It's always kind of like dun 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 dun. It just kind of rises as like, and the interesting thing is, in the hands of the wrong filmmaker, this could be really annoying. Like this could be a very annoying feature of the film. However, George Miller as a filmmaker has the chops to match that. Like his films have a kind of energy that is exactly in line with the energy of Cars. It's like Cars are always on the move, and his films are always on the move. They're never quite. They'll almost get to an idle, but then they'll rev back up again. And so you get this feeling of this movement always through the film. I enjoy this immensely. I enjoy the fact that you feel nomadic when you're watching these films. Like you're constantly moving. There's always something else happening. That if the tension is always rising. Action sequences are always they just go and they go and they go. I really enjoy that element of it. And on that level, it had me thinking, I really love this film, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. There are some odd things in it, such as a perfectly paved road that is it's like freshly tarred asphalt, just going from one citadel to the other. And I'm thinking that doesn't make a lot of sense, and it kind of stands out as something that doesn't really fit in the world. I do feel that the way the story is told in these kind of sequential vignettes is a bit all over the place at times, and it tends to... I wouldn't say it causes the film to drag, because it really didn't for me. I really just kind of enjoyed the spectacle of it all. This is the film equivalent of a theme park ride. You're just on a theme park ride. It's basically what it is. Now, let's look at the character level. On the character level, I am forced to consider the character of Furiosa. Because at the end of I'm getting close to the end of the film, and I'm thinking, I really enjoyed this. But then I started to think back on what I had just watched as it's kind of in the denouement. And I'm struck by the fact that Furiosa is the least compelling and interesting part of the film. And that is kind of a problem. I find myself wondering, why her? Why her? Why is her story so interesting that we have to tell this entire film? Because, quite frankly, Praetorian Jack is a far more interesting character. Now, I like Anya Taylor-Joy, and she has a lot of positive qualities. I do not think she's a girl boss. No, she's not a Mary Sue. She has to work her ass off to get to freedom, and that is pretty enjoyable. But what I'm saying is the Tom Hardy Max of Fury Road and the Furiosa of both films have actually this exact same problem. They hardly ever speak. You don't actually really feel like you know them deeply as characters. They're more like witnesses to the events. I'm speaking of the Tom Hardy Mad Max and the Charlize Theron and the Anya Taylor-Joy characters from Fury Road and Furiosa, these two films, okay? They're actually the least interesting characters in these films. They're boring. They don't actually have a lot to say. Their journey itself is actually not terribly interesting. What's interesting is everything that's going on around them. The War Boys are interesting. Immortan Joe is, well, he's kind of just going through the motions in this film. But like Praetorian Jack is fantastic and really interesting. I really loved Dr. Dementis. I thought Chris Hemsworth's character is fantastic in this movie. Dr. Dementis is hilarious. He is kind of an incompetent boob. Now, before you go thinking they took a man and they turned him into an incompetent boob, he is and he isn't, right? He's dangerous. He is very dangerous. He is a lethal opponent to her, which I love that. He is a lethal opponent for her. That's good. That's part of why she's not a girl boss and part of why he's not, a typical useless male. So we've avoided the usual SJW bullshit, is what I will say. Not all of it, but the usual. What's great about him is he is a bad leader who thinks he's a brilliant leader. Now, I find that pretty freaking awesome. I find it very in line with this world. I actually find it interesting because Immortan Joe is a very good leader. Dr. Dementis he's a good war leader. Like, he can command a battle. He's terrible at leading a society. And I think that's a really fascinating dynamic to explore. And Chris Hemsworth's performance, he does it really amazingly. I do have a question, though. Why does Immortan Joe, he is such a good leader, but his sons, Scrotus, and what are they? Scrotus and Erectus? I forget the names of his sons. It's freaking hilarious. Scrotus, and you gotta love the names in the Rictus Erectus. Vulture, Toe Jam, Big Jilly. You gotta love it. I love it. So anyway, Scrotus and Erectus, that did get a great laugh from the audience when they're introducing themselves, which is pretty good. They're total idiots. Like, they are losers, man. They are stupid. They're not good tactically. They're not good leaders. They're basically like spoiled brat princes is what they are. Very ugly and mutated spoiled brat princes, but that's what they are. They're spoiled brat princes. Now, I'm not saying that is like necessarily a deal breaker for the film being good, but it's interesting to me that Immortan Joe doesn't seem very concerned about what's going to happen when he dies, because when he dies, his two idiot sons are going to run this whole thing straight into the ground. And the reason that's a problem for me is that Immortan Joe seems to want a legacy. He's very concerned about, he has his breeders, right, that have to bear children for him. He's obsessed with maintaining the economy of the wasteland. He's constantly worrying about sort of balancing the legacy of his civilization. So why doesn't he care that his sons are complete freaking morons? Why doesn't he care about that? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it was bugging me as I was watching the film. I'm like, Immortan Joe's too smart to let his idiot sons... Like take Game of Thrones, by the way, and House of the Dragon deals with this very well. House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are brilliant at exploring this problem of, like, Tywin Lannister. Tywin Lannister is an excellent leader. He knows exactly how to, like, run a battle and run a throne room. He can do both. And he loses sleep over the fact that Cersei is, well, she's a decent She is sometimes politically smart, but she's a woman, so she can't really wield power the same way, which, you know, he doesn't hold that against her. It's just a problem. But she's also, she has no impulse control. She just does whatever the F she wants. Tyrion is a disgusting little dwarf who killed his mother. He's very smart, but he's disgusting, and Tywin hates him, and he's not fit to carry the Lannister name, so he's more of an inconvenience. Jaime Lannister is kind of Tywin's best hope, but the problem is Jaime is engaged in his lecherous relationship with his sister, and he chose to be a Kingsguard, which is a problem because now he can't father children. So Tywin's got problems, right? And you see Tywin having to work through these problems in Game of Thrones. So why is Immortan Joe not working through these problems? That's what I'm getting at. So that's a problem. But at the end of the day, if I'm George Miller and I'm asking myself, who is the most interesting character to tell a story about in all this crazy, wacky wasteland? Who is the most interesting character to tell a story about? It is not Furiosa. And that is not because a female character can't be interesting. She can be. Frankly, I think Lucy from the Fallout show is far more interesting than Furiosa. And and Lucy is a character that is very badly written, which is unfortunately. Ella Purnell as Lucy is at least likable. She has cute little character quirks that sort of draw you in. She has a very inconsistent, but a roughly identifiable moral code that she lives by, although it's inexplicable where she got it. But that's neither here nor there. My point is, Lucy is over the top. Well, that's not what I mean. She's larger than life. That's the word I'm looking for. Lucy is a larger than life character in the Fallout TV show and is she's roughly interesting for the viewer to get invested in, right? The problem was she was badly written. Furiosa, she doesn't speak. I don't know what she wants. I don't actually know what her childhood was like. They show you shots of the Garden of Eden she comes from, but I don't actually know her personality as a child, except that she's incredibly clever. I mean, she is extremely whip-smart clever as a kid, to the point where I, honest to God, was asking myself, how did she predict that was going to happen? That there is something she knows is going to happen in the film it's a stretch, that she literally predicts almost exactly what's going to happen. And it would be a spoiler, I guess, if I told you, but it's not that it's impossible. It's just, damn, she is a hell of a genius kid. She is a hell of a genius kid to have planned in advance this trap that she set, you know? Now, it's not that I'm against that, because the character of Newt in Aliens she is a survivor, right? She's this little girl that has survived the alien attack on her colony by living in the vents. But her character is done much more brilliantly, which is that it's sort of implied that Newt has just figured out how to kind of sneak around and survive. She applies those skills, but those skills also cause her problems. She doesn't trust Ripley at first, even though Ripley is her best chance of survival. Newt still needs help, you know, when the face huggers are coming for her. So I guess my problem with Furiosa in this film is, yes, she's extremely clever, other than the fact that she's grown up in a post-apocalyptic world and would have to know some survival skills. She would have to. Still, she comes from a pretty idyllic setting. How is she this smart? So that was straining credulity a bit. It's not that I'm against it. I'm just saying, why isn't the film doing the work to show me why she's this smart? What is it about her that makes her... Frankly, she does something pretty freaking stupid in the early part of the film, and it seems like something she did because she was taught to do it, and I'm like, why would you teach your kid to do this? Again, it's not stated, it's all implied, but I feel like, why would she do this? She's either a pretty precocious and maybe stupid kid, you know, to do what she does, or she was taught to do this. And if she was, bad parents, because basically she tries to sneak up on the bad guys and sabotage their vehicles. That was a really stupid thing to do. That's what gets her kidnapped in the first place. She should have gone and got help, because they hadn't spotted her yet. They didn't know she was there. She should have run straight back to the village and warned them that we have Wastelanders here. A small group, which could have easily been taken out by the adults. Why didn't she do that? Instead, she tries to sabotage the bikes, and she gets caught. I feel like the reason this happens is because the film is trying to say, look how smart and brave she is. It's like, well, yeah, but she just got caught. But then she's always got something she's doing to get herself out of it that I find it just feels unearned, is what I'm getting at. Now, that's pretty much it. I don't know anything else about her character other than she wants to go home and she's really damn smart and a survivor. Now, 2 out of the 3 are fair enough in the wasteland. I just don't understand. I don't understand any of her personality quirks. I don't understand what matters to her as a person. And it's kind of the same thing with Max in Fury Road. He spends most of the film as a grunting, muttering bloodbag, or guy with a friggin' mask on his face, and you never really kind of get to know him as a character other than through his flashbacks to his dead family, which don't match the family in the first film. So I do not understand what George Miller was thinking with that. So there's a lot of problems lining up the old films with these films. But that's basically it. They're kind of generic characters. They're more like archetypes than characters. The only characters that are really compelling in this film are the War Boys, Dr. Dementis, Praetorian Jack, and the vehicles. The vehicles are extraordinary characters in this film. They are amazing characters in this film. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm landing at a 7 out of 10 for Furiosa. 10 out of 10 for the world, the world building, the cars, the action sequences, the spectacle, the fever dream, insane and crazy fun madness of it all is a 10 out of 10. The actual core character of Furiosa is like I'm going to say like a 4 out of 10. I'm going to say she's like a 4 out of 10. So I'm averaging that to, this is a 7 out of 10 superhero film. And I'm recommending it. I think it's worth watching because here's what I will say. Even though Furiosa is, she's okay. She's fine. I mean, she's not like, she doesn't fit in. She's not an SJW BS stereotype. This is the grand origin story of the shaved head, though, which is a bit eye roll. But anyway, it's just like, you take a woman as beautiful as Anya Taylor-Joy and you uglify her, even in the wasteland, uglifying her this much is excessive. It's excessive because, frankly, they showed beauty in Fury Road, but this film did not want to show sex. It did not want to show love. It did not want to show beauty. It kind of stripped a lot of the soul out of it. That's basically it. There's a kind of romance story with her. That there is an impotent, unconsummated romance story between her and Praetorian Jack. And I think that if the film had consummated that romance story, I think it would have given the film more heart that it desperately needed. But we live in a modern Hays Code constructed by the SJW wackos that even good filmmakers, whether they know it or not, are living under it. And they are afraid to sexualize characters in films, and therefore they deny humanity. They deny the humanness of characters, and it results in this weird vanilla feeling that you get watching these characters. They don't feel emotional. They don't feel powerful in that way. They're not moving as characters. Also, maybe that's beside the point, because George Miller, frankly, doesn't actually seem all that concerned, at least in his recent work, with a human story. This is a Madness in the Wasteland story. These two films, Furiosa and Fury Road, they're a very different body of work, I would say, from the original Mad Max films. I think the original Mad Max films were a story of a man and the loss of all that he loved. I think that these two films are more like a story of a wasteland where madness has become an end unto itself. And there is a funness, there is a joy to be had in that, and I credit him greatly. This is a man who knows the tone, he knows the theme, he knows the visual style of his film, and it works. It works in a way that Tarantino films work, Christopher Nolan films work. They have a visual style that is consistent and spot on, and that is very beautiful to look at. And so I really recommend it on that level. It is an incredibly fun carnival ride as a film goes, and it is a solid piece of filmmaking, like beautiful. There's still too much CGI bullshit. There's a lot of CGI bullshit, but at least it's in the context of an action scene that's a lot of fun. So I give it that recommendation. Go see it. You'll have some fun with it. It's time to stop making girls the lead of everything. I'm not saying get rid of girls in starring roles. That's not what I'm saying. But folks, we've had over a decade of every single action saga must be about a badass babe. But what the problem I have with it is every time they do this, they act like it's a novel concept. It's not a novel concept. It's every single movie now. Let's go back to, can we do a 50-50 split? The captain is a reasonable man. Can we just do a 50-50 split? We get some badass babes, we get some badass dudes. And we just do a 50-50 split. You get a movie, we get a movie. That's it. And we'll enjoy both. We'll all have fun. But it's time to stop assuming that a character is interesting because she's a she and her pronouns are she, her. We need to stop assuming that makes a character interesting. And this is the same problem with like Atlas. You seem to think that because J-Lo is a woman and a woman is in a science fiction movie, therefore interesting. No, no, that's not how storytelling works. And we need to stop this. We need to stop it. It's really, I really can't understand. I can't understand. Don't you want to do something new as a filmmaker? Don't you want to try something? I don't know. Who cares? Anyway. All right. What do we have in the chat? What do you think about Furiosa? Let's see. Anthony, I think referring to Furiosa, from what I saw, the dialogue was cardboard, no foreshadowing. Let me know if that's your thoughts on it. Anthony says, I found an unopened copy of Fury Road on my DVD shelf. I know what I'll be watching tonight. I love Fury Road. I do. Now, I love it for what it is. Like, what it is a fun, crazy Golden Fleece action movie. And I think there is a little more heart and soul to Fury Road than Furiosa. I actually do think there was almost a really good B story with Praetorian Jack and Furiosa that I think could have become the heart of the film. That actually, if he had leaned more into the character of Jack, I think this would have been, and his relationship with her, it could have turned into something really great, I think, Furiosa. As it is, Fury Road, though, is a pretty good and pretty fun, crazy, mad world. Like there's a scene in Fury Road where one of the war boys, he's just watched about 5 of his best friends get wiped out and killed in a spectacular display of blood, gore, and violence. And he just says, "What a day! What a lovely day!" And he's happier. He's happier. It's so funny. I'm like, dude, only George Miller can do that. Like, only George Miller can make the madness of this world make sense. And so on that level, Fury Road is fantastic. And I highly recommend it. Now, as a continuation of the Mad Max story, the original Mel Gibson story, no, it's kind of terrible on that level. It's actually fairly pointless on that level, I think. Fury Road and Furiosa are about the Mad Max world, and the original trilogy of Mad Max are about the character of Mad Max, and that's the way I think to look at it. The last 2 are carnival rides done by a pretty talented filmmaker, is what I would say. Yeah, it's like when you go to Universal Studios, and you just get on like the Jurassic Park ride, and you're going to see the dinosaurs come down, and it's going to be fun. You're going to hear the John Williams score, and you're going to love it, or you go on the tour and they take you through the tunnel and they do like a 3D, oh, King Kong, he's attacking the tram. It's so much fun. There's no characters. There's no real story. it's because you are in the story and it's just for fun. That's the way I look at Furiosa. It's like, I'm just having fun watching these war boys do crazy shit. It's like, this is fun. But then I'm like, but is Furiosa interesting? Not really, actually. She fits a archetype. She fills an archetype, but it's not. I honestly couldn't tell you almost anything. I could tell you 10 interesting things about Ripley. I could tell you 10 interesting things about Sarah Connor. I could probably go on an hour just talking about Sarah Connor and why I love that character so much. The character of Kareth Ray Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, the character of President Rosalind in Battlestar Galactica. I'm speaking of female characters for a reason here. I'm making the point that there's plenty of very fascinating female protagonists. I could tell you all the interesting reasons why I like their characters so much. Furiosa, yeah, she wants to go home. What do you want from me? That's all I can tell you about her. Let's see. Oh, is there a problem with the audio? That must be earlier when I was loading up that screen. Let me know if my audio. Am I out of sync? Try refreshing. The audio is popping. The audio is popping. Okay. Let me know if that's continuing. Let me try I'll try a. You just let me know. You let me know because I'll play with the settings if I have to. Okay, you were talking about Atlas, Anthony, about the cardboard dialogue. Yeah, exactly. Cardboard dialogue. It's an AI generated movie. It's AI generated, man. Wrangler says, my leads are female, but they work along some badass dudes. They kind of need to work together to win. That's what makes it fun. Yeah, I actually think Furiosa had a lot of potential as a character in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is a great actress. She doesn't really have much of an opportunity in this film to stand out, though. That's the problem, is that she is so... It's exactly what they did to Tom Hardy in the Fury Road film. He's muzzled. He's being dragged around all the time. He can't really speak. He can't really say anything. I felt the same problem with Furiosa in this film. She never seems to have a minute to, like, be a person. You know what I'm saying? And part of that is because this world is what it is. But then again, Dr. Dementis has plenty of time to chew up the scenery. You know, Chris Hemsworth's character has plenty of time to chew up the scenery and show his personality. Why doesn't she? So that's actually my critique of her character, is that she doesn't actually demonstrate who she is as a person, other than she's super duper duper clever all the time. Okay, great. Yeah, I get that. That's only one facet of her personality, though. I have female protagonists in my novel, Blood and Oak. I'm very proud of one of my female characters. In the second book, Wolves Will Eat. So yeah, I'm all for female characters. I'd like them to be interesting, if that's not too much trouble. Listen, in the right context, female characters have much more potential to be interesting in certain situations because they are at a greater disadvantage often than male characters in the same position. I think that naturally, and this is partly why Hollywood is so obsessed with them. I think it became a trope that's just become beaten into the dirt now. But at a basic level, any character that's at a greater disadvantage in a situation can become naturally very interesting. And male characters often fill this role, such as take the character of Chuck, right? There was that NBC show, Chuck, where he's just an average everyday Joe and he gets downloaded all the secrets of the CIA or something and he becomes the most valuable man in the world. Well, that's interesting because he's just an everyday nerd working at the equivalent of like a Best Buy. He has no business being in this position. He's got to figure it out. Like, so characters at a disadvantage naturally lend themselves to being underdogs that you root for. So in that level, female characters have a lot of potential to always be very interesting. The problem is either when they're turned into an implausible Mary Sue, such as in the girl boss trope, or when it is assumed that just because they're female, they're going to be interesting. Well, then that's a fail. That's a fail. Just as if you just assume that any masculine hero is going to be awesome, well, that's not true either. Let's see. What else we got? Anthony says, Furiosa sounds like she's a product of her environment. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, Anthony. If she had grown up in like let's say she had grown up in an actual wasteland settlement, like in the wasteland, then I would agree with you that her being that smart and that survivalist would make a lot of sense. The problem is this film introduces her as being from this hidden, safe, and sheltered garden-like environment. I mean, in many ways, she has that in common with Lucy in the vaults in Fallout. She's from a civilized oasis of society, a almost literal Garden of Eden, right? Now, I do buy into the fact that she's been trained by her parents to be vigilant and she has a whistle that she blows to warn the community that there's something going on, which makes sense. But would she be that hardcore? I mean, she acts like she's almost better than the feral kid in The Road Warrior. The feral I love the feral kid in The Road Warrior, which is just some kid that literally grew up without parents, without any civilization, doesn't even know language, and is just a wild animal. That's a great character. I don't even know if it's a he or a she. I seriously don't. But I think it's a she. We'll just go with she. So this feral kid in the wasteland is more like an animal than a human in The Road Warrior. That makes sense because she literally has been living off of the land without any help, and she's just learned how to kind of survive the way an animal does. That makes sense, right? My problem is that Furiosa is from an idyllic oasis. I almost feel like she's identical to the Lucy character. The Lucy character, coming from a vault, should be well trained in how to survive and in what to expect in the wasteland, but she's got book smarts, not street smarts. She's book smart, which is an advantage, but she's also naive. The problem with the Fallout show is that she's too stupid. She doesn't even have book smarts. She is a moron. And the problem with Furiosa is she's too street smart. She is too well-traveled at this age and being from where she is. So I don't totally agree with you based on what I saw in the film. And that's my problem with her. I think that if she were just a wasteland scavenger, it would be a different story, Wrangler says, I can't wait to see what the ginger deer does in book 2. Yes. He's referring to Wolves Will Eat. Let me know your thoughts, Wrangler. And Fu Man Blue with a $5 super chat. He's not done, folks. Says the captain doesn't really know what he's doing when he writes females. He makes them accountable and able to reason. So wrong, bigot. Why is my audio stuttering there? That was weird. But thank you, Fu Man Blue. Yes, doesn't really know when I write females. I'm going to kill some tabs just in case they're dragging things down here. There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's crazy. I am of the George R.R. Martin school of thought on this. George R.R. Martin was asked how he approaches writing females, and I really love his answer. And his answer was, I approach writing women as though they are human and individuals. And I know, isn't that radical? And it's like, exactly. I just write them like they're people. That's all I do. That's all I do. And people can find themselves in bad situations and they have to work their way out of it. To me, there's no difference between that and a man, right? That's all it is to me. It's like, okay, now I acknowledge that depending on the place, the time, the situation, there may be certain roles they have in their respective society. That all depends on the setting. And that needs to be taken into account. If you are in a society, honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that George Miller seems to pull the punches a little bit in Furiosa, because I don't feel he did. In Fury Road, I think it is very heavily implied that being a woman in this world is not a lot of fun. It is not a lot of fun. There's only a couple of things that are probably going to happen to you in this world. And in all the Mad Max films, He pulled no punches on what happens if you're a woman in this world and you get caught, right? However, he was also very good at establishing that women who were good at surviving, how they are able to do that. He was able to paint a very plausible picture of that. So I think you have to take into account the advantages a character has and the disadvantages. And then, as George R. Martin was explaining, is that I just think of them as having, and the reason this is so stark is because SJWs, the wackos, don't think of them this way. Women are women, and women have to be strong, and women have to be this, and women have to be that. Stop thinking of them that way. They're people, just right people, right, interesting, complex, flawed, fun, interesting people. Why is that so hard? Why is that so hard? Just, I don't know. Thank you, Wrangler. Says, check out Wolves Will Eat, the exciting follow-up to Blood and Oak. Join Sully, Ethan, and Mel as they claw their way out of a boondoggle with pirates. Yes, well, they're not really our pirates, but we don't tell anyone that. And with a link, thank you, Wrangler. I very much appreciate that. In fact, I can just play my little promo for it. This video is sponsored by the High Seas action-adventure novel Blood and Oak, by me, Captain Garrett. Here's the story. When his sister is kidnapped and sold into slavery by the Barbary pirates, a daring young Navy officer embarks on a suicidal quest for rescue and revenge. This is a story of bloody naval warfare, set during the age of fighting sail, with ruthless rogues, smugglers, cutthroats, and pirates, with deadly sword fights, and tall ships slugging it out with cannons. Available now in Kindle, print, and audiobook. Go to www. All right, there we go. That's right, Blood and Oak. I need to update that because I'm going to do something different with that. But there you go. That's the story. So, oh, yeah, Starfury is referring to the Jack Nicholson film, As Good as It Gets. He says, how do you write women so well? That is such a great moment. I love that so much. Jack Nicholson, right, in this movie, As Good as It Gets, plays this, I guess he suffers from a bunch of different pathologies, but he basically suffers from kind of he's sort of OCD. That's basically his issue. He's got obsessive compulsive disorder, and he's also kind of just not good with people. But he's a romance novelist. So he writes, he's a very successful romance novelist, and he walks into his psychiatrist's office, and the receptionist is sitting at the desk, and she can't contain herself. She knows it's unprofessional, but as he's walking out the door, she's like, I'm sorry, but I'm just such a big fan. I love your novels. They're so good. Can I just ask you a question? How do you write women so well? And she's meeting her hero, right? This author of these romance novels she loves so much. And he's annoyed. He's such an asshole. He is a total asshole, and he knows it. And that's kind of his issue. Is like, that's kind of what the film title is referring to. He wants to not be such an asshole. He just doesn't know how. And so he kind of turns around. He's like, I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability. And he walks out, and she's just heartbroken. She's got this stunned look on her face. It's so messed up, man. It's so messed up. Which just proves, to be an artist, there's just a little bit of messed up somewhere in you. But anyway, yeah, Starfury, I love that. I take away reason and accountability, which, by the way, is how SJWs write women also. That's how SJWs write. That is how they wrote Galadriel, Guy Ladriel in Rings of Power. They take away reason and accountability. She just does whatever the hell she wants. She yells at people. She threatens people. There is a tempest in me. She just goes around Middle Earth just wrecking people. Doesn't care what damage she does. Doesn't care if it's in anyone's interest to help her. Just bulldozes her way through everything. Just her own soldiers who've been following her for 1,000 years on their epic quest to find Sauron. They're dying of freezing cold in the snow because they have no supplies because she doesn't understand logistics. One of them dies. She's the great commander of the North. And what does she say? Leave him. Just leave him. Screw him. It's like, who cares? She doesn't give a shit, man. It's so funny. That's how SJWs write women. They take away reason and they take away accountability. And then and that equals stunning and brave. So stunning, so brave. Wait, who did I misread that? Fu Man Blue? Who? Let me find the comment. Starfury said, "How do you write women so well?" Okay. And then Fu Man Blue said, what did Fu Man Blue say? What the fuck do you mean Starfury's referencing? I reference it, you just didn't get it. He just quoted it at you, Christ on a cracker. Oh, jeez. The chat is fighting me. Oh, very well, Fu Man Blue. You have, yes, I assign credit to you, sir. Oh, and Wrangler putting up a link to his Bad Kitty from Haley's World. Check that out. Wrangler, also a fellow bard. Frequency Studios is his channel, if you want to check it out. I hang out there sometimes. I try to get through. You guys are filling up the chat too, super fast here. So if I missed that, I don't know. But in any case, I try to keep up as best I can. If I miss anything in the chat, it is not intentional. Do not take it that way. Anthony says, and then Sauron puts on a wig and pointy ears and fools everybody. Yes, exactly. Starfury. Okay, what else we got in the stack of stuff? Starfury says, at Fu Man Blue, I'm thick, pay no attention to me, so just act normally towards me. Fu Man Blue says, Starfury, the torch wasn't aimed at you. Okay, well. All right. Now, what is else in the stack of stuff? Oh, yes. Chris Stuckman. Want to get Stuckmanized, chat? Listen, I'm just curious. He had a review. He's like the greatest reviewer on the internet. And he had a review of Furiosa. Let's just get Stuckmanized. I'm just if it's boring, I'll turn it off. I'm just curious what he thinks about it. The man who will not, he said, I will not criticize negatively anything. Yeah.
Because this entire video is going to be spoiler filled. I want to talk about some specific scenes and moments I really loved about the movie that have stayed with me after watching it. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, definitely check it out and come back to the video. As you guys know, this is the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, exploring the origins of Furiosa all the way from childhood to adulthood. But before we get into the rest of the video, I do want to give a special thank you to the sponsor, Displate, in the coming months. Displate is all hours, a convoy of people drag a guy that she's come to care about while dogs eat him alive.
Well, he's doing a bunch of spoilers. I don't want to do that. You know what? I just realized I do not care. I don't care. I really... Sorry, Stuckman. I'm not going to sit through all that. That is one of... The man is boring as hell. I'm sorry. I just... No offense to the guy. Do his thing, but... God, just... Anyway, there was this other thing about, oh yes, how is Furiosa doing in the box office? Let's check that out. This from Cosmic Book News, Furiosa bombing big at the box office. Female-led flick featuring goofy-looking male character. What happened? I don't know that I agree. Which one? They all look goofy. It's the Mad Max world. I don't actually understand that. George Miller's Furiosa is bombing at the box office, which stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth in the prequel to Fury Road that starred Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. It's bombing so bad that Furiosa is scoring the lowest Memorial Day opening in decades. Now, I think this film is worth seeing. I actually think it was one of the better films in theater. Dune Part 2 is still far and away the best film of the year, so that has not changed. It's slim pickings out there. So this, I would almost say, what I'm probably not thinking of something, but I would say this is probably in my top 10 for the year, this film. It could easily get dethroned. I don't expect us to get another Godzilla -1 this year, that's for sure. That was a bolt from the blue, if there ever was one. But in any case, resuming with the article, while estimates had the film opening to as high as $55 million for the 4-day weekend, it's now looking like Furiosa will only open to a $31 to $33 million 4-day weekend, which is, of course, means the 3 days even lower. Fury Road in 2015 opened to $45 million for its 3-day weekend. So he's saying we're at $33 million for a 4-day weekend for Furiosa, which is $20 million less than Fury Road did with only a 3-day weekend. That ain't good, folks. Hollywood is in panic mode as Deadline goes over the stats in their article part titled, "How worried should Hollywood be about theatrical?" Oh, they should be worried. It all sounds too familiar. Furiosa is another female-led flick. That's the problem, right? Even though I think Furiosa as a character had plenty of potential, it's another one. It's another one. We've seen this 1,000 freaking times. It's like, why do they think that just because she's a girl, it's interesting? That doesn't make it interesting. What makes it interesting is if she is Princess Leia is an interesting character. Furiosa is not an interesting character. Hell, Senator Amidala, Padme is an interesting character. Furiosa, not an interesting character. Wrangler says, "What's with the Geiger counter sound effects?" Is that me, Wrangler? Is it probably my freaking internet? Is probably what it is. What else? Okay, I was just checking the chat real quick. It's also learned that the younger generation, the Gen Zers, don't you know, who have $450 billion in spending money, aren't interested at all. Where'd they get that number? That must be an interesting piece of analism. Analysis. Fat Aquaman, is that what we're calling Chris Hemsworth? Furiosa is another movie that also happens to have great reviews from critics, but the fans don't seem to be on the same page, as the cinema score is only a B+, which isn't very good. I think fans are more in tune with word of mouth and care less about the critics' reviews, which often come off as shill. Oh, we love the shills around here. Be careful where they spend their money. Who cares about Furiosa? First off, it's a prequel. And second off, it doesn't feature either Theron or Hardy. There's just no hype surrounding the movie, and there never has. You know, that is a great point. That is a really good point they're making in this article. Why not do another Tom Hardy Theron team up? That would be 1,000 times more interesting to me, because they wanted to have a young actress who they totally underuse in this film, that being Anya Taylor-Joy. They want to have this younger actress play this firebrand character. Well, but you already had some interest, presumably. Tom Hardy, he's got some clout. You got Charlize Theron. Just let them be older. Let them be older characters in the wasteland. It's very bizarre. Open quote, Chris Pratt's Garfield is also now in theaters, which is also suggested to possibly top Furiosa, which was unheard of just a few days ago. I guess that's it. That's a rather anticlimactic end to that article. He referenced a Deadline article that was unpacking the stats. Where is that? Grab me that. Hang on. I have it opening and there we go. Furiosa up in smoke. Lowest Memorial Day opening in decades. This from Deadline. Might get by Garfield. How worried should Hollywood be about theatrical? Well, stop making boring movies. And while I don't think that Furiosa is a boring movie, click X. Anyway, While I don't think that Furiosa is a boring film, I do think the character is extraordinarily boring and just makes no sense. It makes no sense to set around her. You already have an interesting character, which is Mad Max. You couldn't even get rid of that character from the title. The title still says a Mad Max Saga. Why is this a Mad Max Saga? It should just be a Wasteland Saga. A Road War. You know what? You should have just called it Furiosa, a Road War Saga. That would have been more accurate to what we're actually getting. It's a road war. Clearly, that's the thrust of it, is the story is about the road wars. That's it. There is a huge plot hole in this, which is that a young Furiosa presumably knows where her Garden of Eden home is, and Dr. Dementis demands to know from her. For some reason that's never explained in the film, he takes a liking to her, but of course, does not make her, shall we say, a concubine of any kind, either in the future or the present. He does not mistreat her in any observable way other than to keep her prisoner. And he does not attempt to torture the location out of her to get back to her Garden of Eden. He does torture her mother to death, but then after her mother fails to give up the intel, he just doesn't pursue it ever again. That makes no sense at all. So there's a giant plot hole in this. Also, in Fury Road, they established that the whole reason for Furiosa's journey to Gastown is her journey to Gastown, but she deviates and heads for home with all the concubines in tow, right? She's going to set them free and get home. That's the whole thrust of the first film. But the problem is that this film, Furiosa, sets up a backstory in which there was a 40-year road war going on. So a routine trip to Gastown or the Bullet Farm would not have been happening. So he introduced a weird plot hole to these two films that doesn't make sense either. So you guys keep saying the aliens are hijacking the captain's microphone. What's going on with my microphone? I'm having problems with it. Okay, let me change my settings here because it might just be the loading. I think the loading sometimes causes that. Let me get rid of that. How does that sound? Does that sound better? Let me know if that sounds any better. But it's probably the ads dragging me down here. Well, in any case, it's not looking good for Furiosa, so we're just gonna kill that. Solar flares. The chat is being extremely unhelpful. The chat is being they're just memeing on it. They're not telling me whether it's getting better. So there you go. Okay, moving on. So we've covered Atlas. Oh, folks. Would you like to hear the angriest man on the internet, Ryan Cannell? Would you like to hear him rant about something that's pretty hilarious? I would.
We're not even halfway through 2024, but the biggest flop in gaming this year may have already happened with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice.
Dude, I think it's lag from my computer. It's just, I got to kill something. Something is draining my brain power on my computer. What is it? I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Come on now, internets. You can do it. It literally will not let me full screen this. I got to kill the tab and start over. Hang on. Kill the tab. We'll try again. Nope, that's not what I want. All right, almost there. Okay, share screen. All right. Now I think it's working.
year may have already happened with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Warner Brothers Discovery already admitting that this cost them approximately $200 million. This thing was a pathetic failure. People complain about the gameplay, about the live service aspect, and of course, how all of these different iconic DC heroes or villains were treated in this game. And of course, it's identity.
Now let's skip to the lead, okay? so basically, Suicide Squad, which is already a massive failure, Kill the Justice League, right? They're introducing a new character to get you excited, to play it again, and this is what they're going with.
Politics and wokeness infesting gaming, making these decisions happen. This is what we're talking about. Here you go. The first look at Mrs. Freeze in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Rocksteady, the developers of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, transform Mr. Freeze into a non-binary Karen, they, them. This is wild. Look at this freak. Blue hair without any pun intended, because I guess it's supposed to be blue, with the pink glasses. Looks fat and overweight. Typical type of androgynous, genderless fucking blob that's ugly as shit. This is now what they're doing in gaming. We've seen it happen time after time. And every time you don't think it could get any worse for something like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I don't know why they're trying at this point. They should just quit while they're behind, honestly, and cancel everything.
Amen. Hear. Ryan Cannell, the angriest man on the internet. It must be seen to be believed. A man of such rage, of such unremittent anger as to defy belief. They cannot help themselves, folks. They just cannot help themselves. You know what? I just got to put it up on the screen again. Look at this. Look at this. It's unbelievable. How can they just hate success. They just hate making money. This is the most incredible thing to me. You think there's no bottom? There is no bottom to this, folks. There is no depth to which this can't sink. So, in any case, my freaking internet slowing down. All right. There you go. That's Mrs. Freeze. Jeez. But you know what also this reminds me of? This reminds me of this is exactly what's the Starfield. That's what this reminds me of. This reminds me of Starfield. Just the boring, generic kind of space suit. It's just, oh, God, it's awful. It's awful. Yeah, I just think my internet's just slowing down on me. That must be what it is. All right. Solar flare is what Starfury believes. He's probably right. Probably. Starfury and Fu Man Blue are just having a knockdown drag out. Just having a knockdown drag out in the chat. It's unbelievable, folks. I hate it when they fight. Yes. Major Grin had a great video. Would you like to doff your caps, if you would, a moment of silence for the death of Star Trek, if you would. Thank you. Thank you. Star Trek Discovery, aka STD, is a thing which is still occurring. It just won't go away, folks. It just keeps coming back. And I saw this video from Major Grin, who basically is a YouTuber that he just cuts together interesting little clips of the recent events in the Star Trek world. So here we go. Add to stage. And there it is.
And data from the run-in with the Breen shows there's a gap in the shield coverage right at the exhaust port. That's a weakness, and that's where we'll infiltrate. We'll fly a shuttle in and we'll beam aboard from there. I guess I'm joining the science division. You're on distraction duty.
What?
Hello? Hello? You excited for the Starfury? Hey, so, do you know who you're going with? Maybe we could,
Wow, flirting, bold move.
You wish to be one of my stockmates? Sure. Why not? Well, I shall prepare a space for you in the oil bath. Hurry up, Michael. This is getting weird.
Having another consciousness inside of me?
I trust you use protection.
Oh my god. That's fantastic. I trust you use protection. Oh, the absolute state. Oh my god. It's just, there's so much there. There's so much there that's wrong. Just the way that Kurtzman Trek just goes around the lore of previous Star Trek series and just pilfers it. Just pilfers, you know, all kinds of shit like, oh, well, we did Tribbles last week, and we did Morn's species the week before, and we went back and we retconned all of Spock's history, so this week we'll do the Breen. You remember the Breen. Every single scene in that show is the same dumb shit. It's just like, oh, we have some kind of caper, and you have to provide a distraction and act stupid while I do something else. God, I hate that show. It's so bad. It's not Star Trek. The sound design of that show just grates on me like nails on a chalkboard. It's always this little perky little score going, dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da. You know, that's what the score sounds like. And it's always, things are happening everywhere. And it's like, dude, Star Trek used to be a think piece. Star Trek used to be, its most interesting moments were when like two characters were having a deep, nuanced conversation. Let me give you an example. There's a great episode of Star Trek Voyager, of all shows, in which Tuvok, who is the security officer on the ship, is ordered to investigate the murder that, well, basically what happens is B'Elanna, the engineer, she finds the corpse of it's really more of a skeleton. She finds the skeleton of a murdered crew member stuffed in it's like a plasma vent or something, and it was supposed to have been incinerated by the plasma, but there was a malfunction, and so it didn't get incinerated. And so they find this corpse that has been stuffed into this plasma vent, which means someone on the Voyager has murdered someone. And Tuvok figures it out. He figures out who it is. And it's this former Maquis crew member, Lon Suter, who is a Betazoid. But he's a Betazoid that has a deficiency. And his deficiency is, unlike most Betazoids who can read minds, he can't. He's not like Deanna was empathic. He's the opposite. He has no empathy. So he's the Betazoid equivalent of a psychopath, right? Well, there's a scene in which Suter is he's in the brig, and Tuvok is just curious about his motive for the crime. So he goes down to the brig, and he's just having a conversation with Suter, and he says, I must know why you killed that crewman. And Suter says, no reason. And Tuvok says, that is an unacceptable answer, Lieutenant. I want to know why you killed that man. Did he harm you? Did he do anything to you? Did he get a promotion you wanted? He's running all these theories. And Suter says, I didn't like the way he looked at me. And Tuvok cannot understand it because Tuvok must have some kind of logical reason for why Suter would have killed this man. And what Tuvok is failing to, he just can't accept the fact that Suter is just a sadist who just needed to do it for the thrill of doing it. And that's kind of, and it's just a little conversation. It is bone chilling. It is creepy. It is Tuvok staring into the abyss, right? And the abyss is staring back. It has all the qualities of like a psychological thriller, that episode. It's very good. I forget the name of the episode. Does anyone in the chat remember the name of that episode? It's in like season 2 or 3, I think, of Voyager, one of the few good ones in those early seasons. My point is that Kurtzman Trek is utterly incompetent of a spine-tingling psychological thriller episode like that, where it's mostly just about the nature of violence and a rational, civilized man attempting to understand why a psychotic, antisocial sadist would just murder people at random. Like, it's a fascinating psychological thriller, that episode of Voyager. There's no crazy, wacky, stupid action scenes. There's no capers on a Breen starship. It's just characters, exploring the psyche. That's like, they can't write that on Kurtzman. The score alone wouldn't support it. There's got to be a wacky score. Screw Alex Kurtzman, the dumbest man in all of entertainment. Have I said it lately? I may have. What else do we have in the stack of stuff? Yes, I did go over that. We have a victory to celebrate, and we probably will. We may close with that one. So let me first go to a couple of things. Well, let's talk Star Wars. So George Lucas had a few thoughts. He had a few thoughts about Star Wars, and this from Vanity. I might have to kill this tab if it tanks my stream here, but let's just see how it goes. Okay, this from Variety. George Lucas rejects Star Wars critics who think the first 6 films are all white men. Most of the people, he says, are aliens. Oh, George, you don't know who you're dealing with, do you? You're talking to the white slavers, man. They're not going to understand your point here. But in any case, George Lucas got candid about criticism of the first 6 Star Wars films. Only the wackos make this criticism. I love the media. The media are so fake and phony. Nobody is criticizing the original 6 story. We are criticizing Disney Star Wars. That's what's being criticized. You know what I mean? But no, the criticism of the first 6 Star Wars films that does not exist. During a conversation at the Cannes Film Festival on Friday, when speaking about the success of the franchise ahead of receiving the festival's honorary Palme d'Or, Lucas reflected on some of the negative comments he's received over the years from the wackos. Quote, they would say it's all white men, Lucas said of the film's critics. Most of the people are aliens. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. The idea is all people are equal. Oh my God, the man is a bigot. The man is a 5-alarm fire of bigotry. Listen to this. Oh, no, George, that is what supremacist speech. We are not all equal. That's exactly the point of the SJWs. The point is that they're, we've got to help all the poor Latinx people. And, we've got to help all those poor downtrodden minorities. They can't help themselves, George. So say the SJWs. It's equity. Equity is the word of the day. Oh, but it's just George. He's just he'll die soon, they probably think. So we can allow it. We'll allow it. Because he won't be around that much longer, is probably what the Access media is thinking. But anyway, Lucas went on to say that the only beings in the Star Wars universe who were... Why did they put that in quotes? Star Wars. Anyway. Who were discriminated against were the robots. Quote, that was a way of saying, people are always discriminating against something, and sooner or later, that's what's going to happen, he said. I mean, we're just starting with AI saying, well, we can't trust those robots. You gotta love the guy. No, George, it's actually not AI that I mistrust. Seriously. It's not AI that I mistrust. It's we. It's we who are programming the AI that I mistrust. We are going to be programming AI to basically build an army of robots to destroy everyone who doesn't respect pronouns. Dude, the blue-haired wackos are going to be fleeing. They're going to be fleeing from robots that detected them, accidentally misgendered. No, I didn't mean to misgender the Starbucks barista. Brrr, you're done for. You know, it's like they are going to design their own demise with that. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried. Dude, I love the robots. The robots and me can be friends. The problem is that Google is going to be the one programming them. That's the problem, George. That's the problem. I got no issue with R2-D2. None, man. He can hang. As for the issue of race, Lucas said, in the first one, there were a few Tunisians who were dark, and in the second one, I had Billy Williams, and the prequels, they were also criticizing, I had Sam Jackson. He wasn't a scoundrel like Lando. He was one of the top Jedi. Lucas also responded to criticism about the depiction of women in Star Wars films, saying, wait, I'm sorry, I'm confused. There were women in the original Star Wars... Wait, I thought I liked those movies. Were there women in the original Star Wars films? There better not have been. I'm going to go watch them again and we'll see. But anyway, Lucas said, who do you think the heroes are in those stories? What do you think Princess Leia was? She's the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid who doesn't know anything, you know, this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. He continued, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses. They can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan to be logistical. That's what the hero is. Well, you know what's interesting? Poor Lucas. You got to know that, like, when he's saying this to the Variety reviewer, their eyes probably just glazed over. They're probably just like, okay, oh, God. Here we go. Oh, my God. Oh. but he's saying this brilliant point, right? Princess Leia is the leader of the rebellion. Well, you know, she's... In the Senate, at least, you have Mon Mothma is effectively the tactical leader. She's basically leading the troops, I guess. But yeah, Leia is the tip of the spear in the Imperial Senate. She's the one that has the plan. She's the one that's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, we need you. It's incredible that they act as though she was not a powerful character. She was an extremely powerful character. She even has the line where she's like, they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, somebody's got to save our skins. The interesting thing is Luke is actually very wet behind the ears in the first Star Wars film. She has been undercover fighting the Empire covertly for years. So she already kind of knows what to do. Once she's got a blaster in her hands and she's free of the prison, she knows what to do. It's Luke that's kind of fumbling his way through it in that first film. So it's incredible how the SJWs... this is a film made in 1979. Or released, anyway, in 1979. I'm confused. I thought that a film that was made 60 years ago would portray women as barefoot pregnant maids. I'm confused. I'm misunderstanding the history of film according to SJWs. Princess Leia was the head of the rebellion. You know, it's funny. It's like, when you think about it, how can these people be so stupid? How can SJWs be so dumb? They think that it's like they're making a wheel and saying, look what I invented. Look what I invented. It rolls. It rolls, folks. Look at her go. You know? SJWs, what can you do? Yeah, exactly. He's being patriarchal, as Wrangler points out. Oh, yes, the Dark Fate. Dude, I heard Gary over at Nerdrotic said that he thought Dark Fate was worse than Terminator Genesis. Dude, that take, that is a terrible take, in my opinion. Terminator Genesis is the biggest pile of trash. It's one of the dumbest films ever made. It's up there with Atlas for me. It might as well be Atlas. Terminator Genesis is one of the stupidest films of all time. Its plot is absolute nonsense. The replacement of Sarah Connor with Emilia Clarke is pathetic. The retconning The retconning of Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor's love story with Jai Courtney and this idiotic, stupid melodrama. Oh my God, I cannot even describe how many levels of insanely stupid Terminator Genisys is. And Dark Fate is a pile of crap, but it's to me, the fact that Gary thinks that Genisys is like slightly better, no, I disagree. I really, really disagree with that. Tim Allen, I'm sorry, I misstated the date. Tim Allen says A New Hope was released in 1977. How did I get that wrong? Yes, the captain takes a demerit for that. Yeah, 1977. Thank you, Tim Allen. On May 25th, points out Fu Man Blue, the actual Star Wars Day. Now, Lucas also had more to say, which I will share with you directly.
What will cinema become in 10 years?
Same thing it is now. Nobody knows what to do. The stories they're telling are just old movies. Let's do a sequel. Let's do another version of this movie. There's no, and it's not just in movies, but in almost everything. There's no original thinking. You know, it's like people just, I saw something, let's do something like that. Yeah. Those big studios, I mean, they don't want that. They want something that is like something they've seen.
It's
because they don't have an imagination to come up with, to see something that isn't there.
Dude, that is such a brilliant point by Lucas there. It's like they are just doing old movies they've seen 1,000. That's Atlas. That is a perfect description of Atlas with J-Lo. You know, it's like, how about AI takes over and a disgraced, a screw-up agent is the only one that can stop it. And there's space travel in it. And it's just like, this is all just shit you've seen 1,000 times. And you're throwing it all in a blender. There's nothing, dude, the number one thing I hate about Atlas is if there is such a thing as like Mozart level originality on one end of a spectrum, I'm talking Mozart, Shakespeare, Homer, just like the most iconic and important works of literature known to man. Where did that genius even come from? If that's one end of the spectrum, Atlas is the other end. It's the total opposite pole of that. It's literally something bereft of absolutely anything that could be misconstrued as original. That's what it's not even a cover band of sci-fi. You know, there was a film with Tom Cruise called Oblivion, right? It's called Oblivion, where Tom Cruise is this, like, it's a post-apocalyptic world. Tom Cruise is like this sentinel who lives in this kind of idyllic little station, and his job is to go out into the wasteland and just, I guess, I forget now. It was like deal with threats. Meanwhile, there is this like mothership that's like planning to like save humanity, and he's just a steward of this plan, but then he discovers it's really evil and it's this alien machine that's like harvesting our oceans or some shit. It was kind of cool. It was like a cool science fiction movie. It was kind of fun. It was a cover band. It was a cover band of science fiction is what that movie was. It was basically just like, these are all things you've seen before. These are all things that have been done before, but hey, we're going to do like a really fun, cool version of it. We're just going to play a greatest hits of sci-fi. We're going to throw Morgan Freeman in it. We're going to throw Tom Cruise in it. It's just going to be sci-fi's greatest hits. And it's kind of fun. You kind of enjoy it. It's not going to change it's not going to be a game changer. That is reusing old ideas. Atlas is the mutated, inbred descendant of 1,000 copied clones of that. Okay? I'm telling you, Atlas is not even at that level. It is literally, we are gonna Wikipedia the most commonly seen tropes and archetypes in all of science fiction. We're then gonna put that into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, make this a script. We're then gonna take that script, we're gonna put that into Adobe Firefly and have it generate a bunch of AI images of the future. We're then going to take that and we're going to feed it into an algorithm, which is just going to mulch through and just it's just going to print film settings, right? And then we're just going to go and get some tired old but known actress that needs to cash a paycheck. J-Lo, what's she doing? And we're going to put her, is she a woman still? Okay, good. And we're going to put her in a green screen volume bullshit. And we're not even finished with the AI still printing. It's still printing. Oh, that's not important. Has ChatGPT finished the script? Oh, it's okay. It's still printing. Fine. And we're just going to put her in there, and we're just going to film her looking afraid. And then when the AI is done printing, we're just going to overlay that, and we will have our fictional, not real movie that we can have in our other movie. Oh, wait, that script got... Okay, then we'll just make this the movie. We'll dump it on Netflix. Everyone's happy. It's like the anti-originality. It's like, I didn't even know there was like a polar, like opposite descriptor you could use. But when I mean, from now on, ultimate originality is Mozart, and total antithesis of that is Atlas. Starfury. What do you think, Starfury? Have I convinced you yet? Starfury says, Hollywood has been doing the movie rodeo for 80 years. There were 3 or 4 versions of Rio Bravo, and I really like 3 of those movies. So it can be done, but it's not optimal. I mean, I think Lucas is... he's being, in his language, he's being a touch pessimistic. He's being a bit generalizing, which is fine. I understand. I could quite see myself saying the same thing in his position. What I think he's actually describing is modern corporate Hollywood. It's a machine. It's just a machine. And it just is fabricating shit. And it can't really do much to change. It just is what it is. It has some inputs that can influence it, such as money. Sometimes, strangely enough, money seems to have less and less of an effect on Hollywood as a motivator. But that being said, it's just a machine that's just 3D printing crap. And it's the program is in. It's typeset. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. But I think that George Miller's at least the visual presentation, the blocking of the action scenes, the kind of spectacle. And when I say spectacle, I don't just mean like a cheap spectacle, like truly an original vision of a wasteland. It is just a wasteland world. It just is what it is in Furiosa. I think there's a lot of originality to that. So I think you can still have a lot of great originality, even utilizing old tropes. But the key is there's got to be something true. There's got to be something authentic at the root of that, something that makes it a story worth telling. And the problem that we have is, number one, we have the SJW Modern Hays Code, which is a censorship propaganda code, which simply discourages or flat out disallows things like women being sexy and sexualized romance between adults. Unless they're of the same sex, of course. And it can be shown to children. Other than that, they don't like it. We have this bizarre, wacko set of restrictions on all these movies, which has influenced everything, fueled by the belief among the professionals that run all these companies that this will help them when it won't. And so they've just become ossified. They've just become ossified in their way of presenting things. And honestly, I think Furiosa went through the algorithm wood chipper to an extent. I don't even think George Miller is consciously aware of it. I'm serious. I don't think he's consciously aware of the subtle little things that wokeness did to his film without him even knowing it. Because I guarantee, they did this weird thing in the Furiosa film where instead of kissing or hugging, in a context of affection, they were head touching. Two people bow their heads and they forehead touch. What? She does this with Praetorian Jack. It's clear that Praetorian Jack and her, they're having a thing. A thing is happening. They're falling in love. It's actually starting to get kind of, moving. I'm starting to actually feel something, which is right about the time they touch heads and it's over. What a loss that is, because the original Mad Max film, the very first Mad Max film, which I rewatched again recently, is it's got these beautiful quiet moments where Max is at home. He's come home from a hard day of like trying to keep the highways safe. He comes home to his beautiful wife. He makes her a cup of coffee in the morning. At night, he's sitting there playing with his son. And there are these beautiful little moments where, he's in love with his wife is in love with him. He loves his son. It's like that humanness is what's lacking. It's what's missing in modern storytelling often, really often. And I don't think it's always intentional. I just think it is the algorithm. And when I say algorithm, yes, there's an actual algorithm, but I guess I mean the kind of human algorithm, which is this unspoken set of little rules that all the corporate bosses are living by. We can't take risks on something new. It's got to be a prequel. It's got to be a requel. It's got to be a reboot. It's got to be a sequel. It's got to be IP mining. It's like this is the algorithm created by human minds sort of networking in this ossified, moribund industry that is Hollywood. Fu Man Blue heading over to Forbidden Frontier. Good night. Okay, good night, Fu Man Blue. Good having you. Thanks for popping by. Thank you for the super chats. Always appreciated. Have a great night. Have a great night, Fu Man. Let's see here. Shall we have some Disney? Let's have some Shills. I want to do some Shills, but first, maybe we'll do the leaked. I want to find this leaked Star Wars. There was a leaked Obi-Wan script that I wanted to cover. We'll try that in a minute. Okay. We're going to do some Grizzy Shills. Hat tip, Grizzy 1989. So if you don't know, Grizzy is a scholar. He is a curator. He is a scientist of sorts. But he doesn't study insects or, epidemiology or anthropology. No, Grizzy is a student of a particular subset of human intelligence, which we call shillery. That is, shills. Those who, no matter what Disney does to them, no matter how sadistic Disney is to their IPs as they're strip mining their IPs, the shills love it. The shills love it. The shills, when Disney steps on their face, they say, "Thank you, Disney, may I have another?" And it makes me sick. But Grizzy has a strong stomach, and he studies the shills for posterity so that we can understand the species. And so, let's see. Do I want to do the Dave Filoni shills or the Tales of the Empire shills? I can't decide. I really want to do both. Tales of the Empire shills has me curious. What do you say, chat? Tales of the Empire? Or should we do Dave Filoni? 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's do Dave Filoni. We'll do the Dave Filoni shills. Here we go. Add to stage.
All right, we're going to kick this video off with a question. And that question is, why do the shills shill? Why do they do fake react?
It is the question which preoccupies us all, dear Grizzy. It is the very question. Why do the shills shill? Why? Why do they do it? Well, let's find out.
And why do they defend Disney, Disney Marvel, and Disney Star Wars as hard as they do? Now, there are quite a few reasons: money, subscribers, influencer status. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to focus on the fact that these people are desperately trying to get noticed by Disney. And because the Disney Corporation themselves are desperate for a win with upcoming content like The Acolyte, it is fucking working. So what we have here is a photograph.
Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Folks, oh my God. When I say Leslie Headland, the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, when I say she is an unfortunate looking woman, I mean, folks, I mean a very unfortunate looking woman, okay? What in the hell? Oh my God. Dude, Limbaugh was right. Rush Limbaugh was right. Feminism was created so as to allow unattractive women access to power. That is absolutely what it was created for.
Of Dave Filoni, Leslie Headland, and if you look closely, 3 of the Disney shill channels that I cover here regularly. Now, I have to admit, I'm honestly kind of impressed. Not because you were able to pull a meeting with 2 high-ranking showrunners over at Disney Lucasfilm, but because you somehow managed to stand there and with smiles on your faces endure whatever stench is emanating from Leslie Headland's vagina.
You emit a foul and unpleasant odor.
So who exactly do we have here in this photo? On the left are some people I've personally never covered.
Jeez, Chrissy. Oh my God, I'm glad I didn't eat. I'm glad I did not eat anything before this stream.
But I may have to look into. Of course, in the middle, we have Dave Filoni and Stank Puss representing Disney Lucasfilm. But behind them is someone I've covered before, Eric Voss of the New Rockstars.
Dude, which is better, Chad? Which nickname is better? Chlamydia Burns, a.k.a. Grace Randolph, or Stank Puss? That's so... Oh my God, that's amazing.
Even though he spends most of his time on his channel discussing things other than Star Wars. Or maybe this is just his reward for refusing to admit that the Marvels sucked.
The Marvels is not a great film, but it is a lot of fun. Why do I use the word fun and not good? Well,
Dude, that is the quintessential, like, shill doublespeak. That's the newspeak, the 1984 newspeak right there. Look at his face. Look at his manner. Look how he's like, he's got this weird, he's putting on this weird affect, you know? He's like, it's like, dude, that's stress. That is stress. I'm telling a lie. I know it's a lie, and I'm telling it anyway. I love how he's, it's not a great film, but it's fun. And why do I say? You gotta wind it back just a bit. Oh, oh.
But it is a lot of fun. Why do I use the word fun and not good? Well, I say fun, not through gritted teeth, but as a side.
Just exactly, dude, that's exactly what he's doing. He's literally describing what he's doing. I'm not doing it through gritted teeth, but you are, sir.
I of relief.
You're a downright pirate.
And also, right behind Dave Filoni, we have fake news Kyle Katarn. You all know him. He does the cringe Disney shill fake reactions.
All the Thrawn is back. Ezra is back. All the dark lightning.
Oh my God, dude. God, dude.
Maybe they saw that reaction and invited him because they thought he was gay.
Oh my God. Is this really what he tweeted? No.
Maybe they saw.
He tweeted, this guy, Kyle, he says, just dudes being bros, man. We're just being bros, man. Look at my good friend, Dave Filoni. We go way back. We go way back, me and, I call him Davey. He lets me call him Davey. That's just between him and me. That's just a dude, bro, dude thing. We're just dudes and bros, and we just bro it up. And he lets me call him Davey. He lets me wear his hat. That's me and my good old friend, Davey Filoni. Don't call him that. That's just what I get to.
saw that reaction and invited him because they thought he was gay. Because, I mean, he looks like he's jerking off two men at the exact same time, for Christ's sakes.
Come in my face!
And sure enough, right on cue, here he is on Twitter less than 24 hours after the meet and greet, shilling for the Acolyte.
Really? What a shock.
And lastly, over here on the right, we have a known cross-dresser in the Star Wars fandom, Star Wars Cross-Dressing Explained. And I'm sure that he and Stankpuss had a lot to discuss with regards to their sexual...
It's as if the woman literally is working her ass off around the clock to get uglier. She's like, I'm not ugly enough yet. I saw a picture of me a year ago. I was not ugly enough. Let me gain some more weight. And, I swear to God, this woman must get plastic surgery to uglify her. I'm not shitting you, folks. I think she goes in there and says, I want my face to be more square.
Rewarding their NPC fans for shilling their content and encouraging them to continue to shill for the Acolyte. They admit this in an article stating that Disney is constantly creating new, innovative experiences that craft deep relationships with consumers. Which is not true, by the way. They are only interested in crafting deep relationships with consumers who are full-blown Disney shills, like this lunatic here below.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Who recently got called...
You know what? Okay, well, you know what's funny is, okay, we'll see what he's about to say. She's one of the shills I think is genuine. I think she just literally, she just is what she is. You know, she likes this stuff. That's my theory. I could be wrong. I believe the best in people, you know?
Out on Twitter for being a fake reactor and a Disney shill, to which she responded, not sure what people seem to think we get from Disney for doing this. I do this for fun because I enjoy Star Wars and passionate about my interests. Stop spreading lies because you're jealous that we are happy.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
So you claim people accusing you of being a Disney shill are spreading lies and that you don't get anything from Disney. But you do. You yourself have admitted this. Like this tweet, which you have pinned at the top of your profile. This is so wild to me. Never did I think I'd ever be featured on the Star Wars / Disney promo videos. I'm sure you got a lot of ad revenue and a lot of subscribers being shouted out by the official Star Wars YouTube channel, but no, you don't get anything from Disney for doing this. And that's not even all of it. She also admits to getting free video games. She's probably gonna get Star Wars Outlaws, the $130 version for free, for Christ.
Oh my God, dude, I think what they had, you know what they did with Galaxy Star Wars Outlaws? They got this gorgeous, beautiful young model. They cast her as the model for this character, but then secretly, they modeled the face of this fictional character on Leslie Headland. I think that's what they did. Right down to the ball sack chin that this babe has. They're like, they modeled it on Leslie Headland and her ice cube shaped face.
Sake.
Damn, Lord.
So what else might Disney...
That's for you, Starfury. our boy Garrus Vakarian telling it like it is.
...be hooking these people up with besides a meet and greet in exchange for their shilling? Invitations to the premieres of upcoming Star Wars movies? Free lifetime passes to Disney World, perhaps? Early access to the Acolyte show itself, so you can get your videos up early and get those nice, juicy early views and ad revenue? But anyway, I will be watching all of these people's content with regards to Star Wars The Acolyte. And my prediction is that because of this meet and greet, none of them will say anything negative about the show, no matter how bad it ends up being. If you like the name Stankpuss for Leslie Headland, let me know by smashing that like button. Also, please...
Oh, God. Well, it's kind of hard on the ears, to be honest with you, but I'll smash that like anyway, Grizzy. There you go. That is Grizzy, 1989, a man, a gentleman, a scientist of the shill. Damn internet. My internet is just like, I don't know what's going on. I got to do like a full system restart or something. It's just how it is. What was it Wrangler said? Wrangler had a comment I wanted to get to while that was going on. Oh, yes. Wrangler says, full disclosure, I say the exact same thing about the Transformers, the movie. I know it's full of problems, but I still have so much fun because the characters are good and I love it. Yeah, I'm not saying that if you describe something as, well, it wasn't great, but it was fun. I'm saying that what strikes me about the Shills is that they always praise things that way. It's like it's so consistent that they're always talking that way about, but it's not just that, because like I guess I'm basically saying a similar thing about Furiosa. I do use that language. I say things like, well, yeah, this or that wasn't the greatest, but it was still fun, or it was still whatever. Furiosa is kind of a fun carnival ride, and I really love like the action and all that stuff. But yeah, Furiosa is kind of boring and it's not the greatest, right? But the Shills don't even really do that, because they never actually talk about the specifics. They never give you good reasoning for why they love something so much. What they do is they hedge. They hedge because what they want to say is, this was a disappointment. This was not what it should have been. I thought Dave Filoni would deliver something better. I assumed Hayden Christensen's Anakin appearance would mean more to Ahsoka. I did not, that's the way they would talk about it. But they never talk about it that way. They just say things like, well, I mean, yeah, was it great? Well, no. Was it the greatest thing? What that is it's subtly setting up a straw man argument. That's actually what it really is. They are subtly setting up a straw man argument, which is they are implying that anyone that is criticizing, for example, the Marvels, is setting an unreasonably high standard for the film. By saying that was the Marvels the greatest film ever made, that's implying that everyone criticizing it is demanding a standard of excellence, which is like through the roof and impossible and unattainable, which is a straw man argument. Nobody is saying that. Nobody's saying that. Like Iron Man 2 isn't the greatest Iron Man film. I still really like it because I thought that Mickey Rourke was fantastic as Whiplash. I loved the suitcase Iron Man. Like, I can tell you the specific things I loved in the film while telling you that there were better Iron Man films, right? That's not what they're doing. They're setting up this kind of like false argument in order to soften the blow. And that's really what it is. They're not allowed to be honest about, well, when I say allowed, like Grizzy is saying that one girl is like, she's disingenuous, and he did point to some good evidence for that. I tend to think she really does feel the way she feels about Disney Star Wars. I think that's sort of sad. That's honestly kind of worse because it's not. But whatever. Enjoy what you're. Look, Starfury loves Atlas. There's no accounting for taste, so it's fine. I could roll with it. I'm just saying that she is kidding herself, though, if she doesn't think that there's not pressure. There's definitely, if not conscious, there is an unconscious pressure, at least, on these shills to behave themselves. Because Lucasfilm is very mercurial. Like, these companies are very mercurial. They will pretend that they love fans and that they can't wait to hear all the buzz. But the second that you go against them, they'll remove comment sections, they'll turn off the dislike, they'll do things to hide, and then they'll put a post on their Twitter account calling fans bigots and racist. You don't think that influences even the shills that are genuine in their reactions? That's an influence. That's an influence. If I say that I hated this show, like, dude, do you even think that like the typical Disney Star Wars fan thinks of themselves as like even rational if they were to say something as strong as I hated Ahsoka? Dude, they can't even concede. I mean, I'm saying that many of them probably on some level at least strongly disliked it, but they can't say that. They can't say that because Ahsoka is sacred. She's a sacred cow of the Filoniverse. You see what I did there? She's a sacred cow of the Filoniverse. You can't say, you know what's funny is when I say, Captain Garrett says, I hate Ahsoka, well, I freaking mean it. I really detest that show. But I'm not saying I hate the character that was in the Clone Wars. I'm not saying I hate the character that was in the Rebels. I am saying I hate the character played by Rosario Dawson, and I hate that show. And I hate all the writing in that show. The Shills, they don't have the freedom to say that, because if they say that, what is going to be assumed is that they are going against Ahsoka as a character, and that just is sacrilege, you know? So, no, I'm with you, Wrangler. I use the same language. I'm not saying that using that language makes you a shill. I'm saying that leaning on that as a verbal crutch all the time, because you know in the back of your mind that if you say what you really think, you're gonna be persona non grata. That's what I'm calling out, you know? So, Tim Allen, Brokeback Disney. Anthony says Filoni's like, he's thinking I'm getting lucky tonight. I know, dude. I love how he's behind Filoni, and he's got this kind of awkward, like, you know, he got one little hand over Filoni's shoulder, you know? And you, dude, just two dudes being bros, dude. Just two dudes being bros, man. We're like bros, man. Wrangler saying, I think you mean Leslie Headland looks like a worse version of the Horizons chick. I mean, my God. I mean, just God. Wrangler says, what's her name? Aoli or something like that? Tim Allen says, love the name Stank Puss. Oh, jeez. God, it's not that I like the name too, Tim. My problem is, it's the type of name that paints a picture. And it's that's the problem. I really don't like the picture that's painting in my mind. I don't. And I don't want that picture in my mind. You know what I mean? That's the issue with that name. Chlamydia Burns. I don't know. There's some distance between me and the picture. I don't know why. There's more distance between me and the picture with a name like Chlamydia Burns. But with a name like... It's just, you know, it's too vivid. There's such a thing as too descriptive. That's all it is. Oh, God. Wrangler, no. No. Yo. Jeez, I'm not even putting that one up. Anthony says, Captain, your reactions are way more authentic than any of the Disney show. Well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you. You know what? Honestly, it's not because of any real virtue on my part. I don't know how to, like... I'm just this way, man. I'm like, if I don't like something, I don't like it. I really don't. Or I like it, I like it. It's funny, I was watching Friday Night Tights, and they weren't loving Furiosa, and they were all saying it was boring, and I thought that was going to be my feeling. Oh, shit. This is going to be boring. Because usually I'm kind of in alignment with them. But I was not bored on Furiosa. I really kind of enjoyed the episodic storytelling. But Furiosa herself was boring. But I kind of didn't notice it because I was focused on, like, Dr. Dementis, and I was focused on Immortan Joe, and I was focused on just the characters of these rigs and these cars that are, like, in this battle. Like, I just wasn't paying attention to how boring she was. So I kind of enjoyed it. It's kind of a wasteland. You know what I thought? I thought it was kind of like a ballad. It was kind of like a Beowulf in, like, a wasteland, you know, like just a battle song that's being sung in some hall of, like, something that, you know, it's not meant to be specifically like an Epic of Gilgamesh or some great tale. It's really more like a song that is sung in a mead hall. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what Fury Road and Furiosa are sort of like to me, and I kind of enjoy that. I really am the type of guy that, like, if I just don't like a movie that everyone else loves, I'm gonna be the party pooper. My sister hates it. She hates it. She's like, you don't like anything, and I'm like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Okay, it's how I feel. That being said, I do think, though, that as the channel progresses and as I do this longer, I do think I have to be vigilant, though, because I meant what I said. I think some of those shills, they are genuine. I do think, though, that they might be unaware that that subtle pressure, like let's say that this channel goes on for a while and I just get a reputation for being the guy that I love Toho Studios, and Toho Studios is brilliant, and Takashi Yamazaki is a great director. Godzilla Minus One is one of the greatest films ever made, and which is my honest opinion. And then Toho Studios flies me out to Tokyo and gives me a gift basket and says, well, we just love it that your video went viral and it's so great to meet you. And then I get to meet Yamazaki. That would feel good and that would be awesome. And then Yamazaki directs a sequel to Minus One and it's like garbage. It's like trash. Just trash. It's like it wouldn't be. But just imagine that it was, right? It was like a Godzilla versus Kong. Sorry if you like it. I did not. If it's Godzilla versus Kong garbage, or Godzilla X Kong that's actually the worst one. Some of Godzilla versus Kong was okay for me. I was kind of okay with some of that. Godzilla X Kong is such garbage. Let's just pretend that Yamazaki directed. Listen, I would still tell you what I think, but I feel like an element of discipline would have to be employed because there would be pressure. There would be not like direct pressure, but there would be a feeling of like, wow, they were so kind to me and they flew me out to Tokyo and wow, it was really awesome getting a tour of Toho Studios and it just, and I'm gonna have to say that I really hated this and Yamazaki screwed the pooch. That would have an influence to some extent, and it would take discipline for me to say, all right, full disclosure, I went to Tokyo, I had a great time, Yamazaki, awesome dude. It's bad news, folks. And I love you, Yamazaki, and this is constructive and meant with love, but I would still have to tell the truth. And all I'm saying is the Shills need to be aware that even if it's coincidental, even if there's no strings attached, someone doing you a solid, it puts pressure on you to want to reciprocate. And that is an issue. And I'm not saying that, people can't be forgiven. But that being said, probably the reason I will never get that hypothetical trip to Tokyo is because I think I'm constitutionally incapable of just chilling. I just couldn't do it. If Yamazaki directed a stinker, I would be very polite, I think, in my criticism because I have great admiration and I would see it as a miss. I would see it the way I see Tenet, for Christopher Nolan, right? Tenet, pile of trash. I still admire what Nolan was trying to do with Tenet, but failed to do. And, it was a miss. That's how I see it. And that's probably how I would critique a failure on Yamazaki's part. But if Yamazaki then came out and said the fans are all a bunch of toxic man babies and incels, they need to just shut up and get a life, and they need to understand that they're bigots and these are the way movies are supposed to be made, well, then it's a different story. Then it's like, well, I'm going to light your ass up. Then it's Starfury, get your flamethrower. That's what would happen, right? Because to me, that would be an abuse of power, right? And I take great umbrage to that. So, yeah, it's like, I think George Miller, for example, very well-meaning director. I think that what he was going for with Furiosa was very admirable. I think he's been a bit taken in by this trope that just because it's a chick, you put a chick in it, it's going to be interesting. It's like, no, she still has to be herself interesting. And I don't know that he could ever make another proper Mad Max film. Because I don't think George Miller's interested in telling that story anymore. I don't think he's interested in that. I think he's interested in telling ballads of the wasteland. That's all I think George Miller wants to do. He wants to tell you amazing, crazy, fever dream ballads about shit going down in the wasteland and the wasteland wastelanding. That's it. That's it. He just wants to tell you road war ballads. He doesn't want to tell you a story about a road warrior. I don't think he wants to tell that story anymore. And I don't think we're ever going to get a story like that from him again. I don't know that bothers me because frankly, if he keeps making movies that are at least this entertaining, I'll keep watching them. I'm kind of surprised I kind of thought Furiosa was leaning a little too hard into the girl boss trope. It's nice to know that it wasn't. Yeah, if he makes another movie at this quality, I'll definitely watch it. The man can do an action sequence. He can do an action sequence. And I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like an action sequence in a George Miller Road Warrior story. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. The way he uses vehicles like they are in a tank battle is fascinating and incredibly well thought out and incredibly fun to watch, regardless of whether or not the characters themselves are interesting, you know? What did I? No, I did not, Starfury. He says, wow, Swords and Starships throwing me under the bus, comparing me to a fucking Disney show. Oh, no. I didn't know, did I? No. What I said was you liked Atlas. That's all I said, Starfury. I said, no, actually, no, you're wrong, Starfury. I did not compare you to a shill. I compared you to someone who genuinely... No, what I did is... I compared you. I compared you to an authentic Disney Star Wars fan. I don't know if that's worse or not. That's what I did. I did not compare you to a shill. A shill is someone who is a fake fan. What I compared you to was an actual fan of Disney Star Wars, someone who really does like it. You know, they just love the red lightsaber. You know, they just love all that. I don't know, which might be worse. I don't know. I'm saying she's sincere, Starfury, and I'm saying I take you at your word that you love Atlas. Don't read too much into it. It was a harmless comparison. It does not, do not read anything into it. The baloney verse. Yes, Anthony. Wrangler says, oh no, I'm a shill. When it comes to G1 Transformers, I'm a straight up shill. Are you talking about the cartoons? I say that in the Matt Walsh with the cartoons. No, I'm just kidding. Do you mean that like the animated show and films, or are you talking about the Michael Bay movies? I will accept either answer. By the way, Wrangler, I did want to get to the theater. I think it was you that asked me to watch the Transformers film. It might have been you. I forget. Someone in the chat asked me to watch it. And it was in the theater, and I wanted to go see it, and then it was gone before I could get there. And I was like, damn it. I was going to go see the original animated Transformers, the movie. But, you know, things happen. Tim Allen says it matches the face. Starfury's never going to speak to me again. Being the captain is a great responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the captain's cap. Because look how harmless a comparison, no offense intended, no aspersions on anyone's character. If anything, I was saying that here's a Disney fan that, God love him, you know, for whatever reason, inexplicable and inscrutable as it may be to us, loves Disney Star Wars, and well enough for them. If anything, it is an admiring comment. And to then compare someone who likes Atlas to that, it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be anything. It's harmless. It's harmless. Or so I thought. And then I find out, you know, it's like the captain has cast aspersions upon his own chat, which I would never do. Never knowingly. I am a shill, chat. I am a shill. I'm a shill for you. I am a shill for you. You never would I literally compare you to a shill. Starfury. Yes, it's worse. because he said you compared me to a shill. And no, I didn't. A shill is a fake fan. They don't really care about it. They're just faking it for whatever reasons, social credit or, you know, access, whatever, clicks, views, you name it. But some of the shills I think are actual Disney fans, and Starfury is saying that no, it's worse to compare me to an actual Disney Star Wars fan. Well, you know what? We'll just decouple it, okay? Just two things can exist in utter and total isolation, Starfury. Over here, we have an actual Disney fan who really does enjoy the red lightsabers and the Vadering and all that. And they mean it when they're like, and that's over here. And then miles and miles and miles away over here, I'm confused by direction, but way over here, totally disconnected, siloed, no connection whatsoever. Here is Starfury, who is a genuine fan of Atlas. No connection. There is no connection. Starfury, none should be read into that. None. Starfury says, also, I don't love Atlas. I found it enjoyable enough to wind down after work on a Friday before F&T. Well, fair enough. Fair enough, Starfury. Fair enough. And Wrangler said, yes, the animated movie from 1986. Yeah, I missed it in the theater. I regret that. I really do. I really do. All right. Well, you know, I want us to close on a high note, my dear chat. Where, Mr. Producer, if you would, please. You know, yes, there are some unfortunate IP mining disasters that we've seen. We've seen the gaming industry going down the tubes. But when there's a win, we got to go out on a win. So let me fire up this story for you, just to set you on your way for another phenomenal week. As you know, Stellar Blade is a stunning and brave female-led video game series. And they were taking away gorgeous, beautiful outfits. Well, this from Bounding into Comics. Shift Up adds new costumes based on the original designs of censored outfits to Stellar Blade. They put them back, folks. They are bringing the boobies back. A new update for Stellar Blade has added new costumes to Eve's wardrobe that appear to be based on the original designs. And what does it... There we go. There it is. The Holiday Rabbit is back on the menu, boys. Because they had this... What was the fake version? Yeah, this was the edit, and they said they brought this back. So, I say that to say this. That's a win, folks. The petition is working. The fan backlash is working. You chalked up another win. They are bringing back Eve. So never doubt it, my dear sailors and starnauts. You have more power than you know. Take heart. Don't give up. The days of grand storytelling, the glory days, they shall return. From the ashes, from the fertilized, nourished soil of decaying Hollywood, there will be a new day. And you stand upon that horizon. So thank you for spending another beautiful Sunday with me, and a captain salute to Starfury, who took a few slings and arrows, you know. Thanks, Starfury, for being such a good sport. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for the super chats. I am Captain Garrett of the Swords and Starships channel. If you enjoy this stream, like, subscribe, check us out on Twitter at the SNS channel, and check out our Discord, link in the description. And I think we're going to wrap it up, folks. We're going to wrap it up on a note of victory. Victory in the culture war. And until next time, this is Captain Garrett saying, I will see you out there.